right. A pleasant good evening to everybody. Hope everyone here is doing awesome. Glad to see some familiar names up in the building. Everybody who was here waiting all along just to see us come on. From when I see the live was scheduled, I see whole heap of people just started jumping on and waiting to see the program start. So welcome to everybody who is here. If you are here for the very first time, welcome to Unstoppable TV. Welcome to the program. And if you're here, make sure you hit that share button right now and get the program out to other persons who may have not gotten the notification as yet that we are live. So click share it to some groups. Facebook, please share it to some groups. YouTube, share it over to Facebook, share it to a WhatsApp contact, and invite someone to this conversation this evening, especially if it's a concerned Jamaican who have issues that they want to hear the answers to. All right. So if you are here right now, make sure you send this live stream to your great grandmother who did and say, Lord God, over the years, nothing no change between them politicians, and we go back and forth between them one another. We want a change. Send this live stream out right now so that she can come on over and listen to what the U.I.C. President Mr. Patterson, Mr. Joseph Patterson, has to say this evening. All right, because there are a lot of issues Jamaica being faced with right now, and not only now, but for quite some time. And we're sick and we're tired. We're tired of it, right? We want change. That's one of the things that many persons, reach out to me and say, Unstoppable, we want change. We want to see something different now because there has been no change over the years, right? So what's going to be different is the conversation right now. So I have the U.I.C's president, Mr. Joseph Patterson, with me right now on stream to have that conversation, as well as we have Marvin Edgar here with us on stream to also discuss these topics. All right, gentlemen, good evening. How are you?
Having us on your program again.
It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure, Mr. Patterson. All right, Marvin, how you doing, brother? Your quality gone, Marvin. Your quality gone.
Yes, I'm thinking of switching to, but good evening. Yeah, good evening, Jamaica. It's a pleasure to be here with Unstoppable. It's a pleasure. So.
All right, so Marvin, let's start with you, if that's all right with Mr. Patterson. Let's start with Marvin.
No problem.
Marvin, let's introduce you to the viewers first so they know exactly who Marvin Edgar is and what you're all about. What's your role in the U.I.C?
Well, presently I am the communications director for the United Independence Congress. It is a pleasure to be serving one of the greatest person as our leader, the Joseph L. Patterson. And we have a wonderful set of uniters. Enough respect, big up, shout out to them, because I know all of them are tuning in. They're watching the Carlines, the Tanyas, the Maroon. He knows where I'm talking. And of course, to all my wonderful uniters. I am the communications director, but Mr. Joseph L. Patterson, if you should ask, he will tell you that all his uniters are well-rounded, and anybody can fit the position. So it's anybody can get the position of being communications director, because we are well-rounded thanks to him, because he makes sure that we are on the ball.
Awesome. So as the communications director, would you say that your role in the U.I.C is a difficult one or no?
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not. For me, it doesn't matter what title I am given. The task, I am willing to do anything for the United Independence Congress. So no title is too great, no position is too great. We are very humbled there, and we serve the Jamaican people. We're here to serve. So whatever is bestowed upon us, we're ready to carry out the duties attached to it.
Awesome. Now, what made you decide to join the U.I.C. first and foremost?
Well, The truth is, prior to the U.I.C, I was that kind of person who was bent on starting my own political movement because I was sick and tired of the Jamaican Labour Party and the People's National Party. As a Jamaican, I believe that we can do far better. I'm sick and tired of the promises that have been made to my Jamaican people and the crime, the corruption. It got to me. And I was in Maypen Town. I went into the market to buy a food from a restaurant friend that I have there. And then when I was coming around, I saw this group of people with placards and stuff. I didn't know they were U.I.C. We just know that they were protests. And we just jump in at the front and say, yes, my body, my choice. My body,
Mhm.
my choice. And I followed them to where they ended the march, which was at the KFC, excuse me, in Maypen. And that's when I met Mr. Patterson and the team of persons, Marlon, the persons who were there. That was my first time. And I just joined the movement. And that my reason for joining it was the fact that they shared similar sentiments as I do. They wanted
Mhm.
better for the country. And I said, man, this is not about me. This is about the country. And if I can meet a group of persons who are already organized, then it makes sense to just be a part of it. So for me,
Mhm.
it was an honor. And I was happy that, you know, Joseph and his team went out and they got the party certified and everything. So it was good for me. All the paperwork was done, so just join up with the movement.
Mhm. All right. So you came across them and you joined up. But what about the movement that
Okay.
makes you say, you know what, this is the party for me? Because I know you said that you intended to start your own party, but you cling on to the UIC. But what about the UIC's movement that made you so sure that this is where you need to be?
I mean, it it was it was the fact that there was somebody who dare to stand up against the government of Jamaica, the inadequacies, the corruption, the bullyism, everything. Somebody was willing to stand up against it because in Jamaica, everybody is scared. And you can't say anything about, you cannot speak against the government in Jamaica and their injustices and how they're going about things. Because the moment you do, people tell you that you have to be careful, people are going to kill you. Well, I am that kind of person where for me, you don't determine how I die or who kills me. I am all about standing up for the Jamaican people, whether I live or I die. And I mean, most of our well, not even most, but there are few of our national heroes. Nanny of the Maroon, the Paul Bogles, and the Sam Sharps. They were persons who were hell bent on making sure that come hell or high water, they were going to stand up for the Jamaican people. And I believe that their blood is running through my veins. So I'm not the kind of guy to shy away. I was just happy to know that somebody was brave enough, bold enough to stand up against the Jamaican government. So it became a group of us, and we are resolute, we are strong, we're determined to ensure that the Jamaican people know that they can trust. Finally, in Jamaica, they can trust a group of persons who wants to be the government to take this country from the mess that it is in and put it on a pedestal where the entire world will now be getting visas to come to Jamaica as opposed to Jamaicans rushing up at Kingston to get visa to leave here. So we are going to bring back the entire diaspora right here, sir, right here, sir, on the piece of land here. And we're going to show Jamaicans how rich this place is. We're going to finally let them understand the meaning of the word sovereignty and freedom.
We're going to get to that, you know. We'll get to that. Hold on, don't be going too much. We're gonna get to that because I'm quite sure everybody that is on the stream right now wants to hear us have that conversation about the whole sovereignty and the maroon
Yes.
and all of that. But we're going to get to that in short order. Now, everyone that's listening, right? I want you to prepare your questions because this
Yes.
is about me. It's not about the UIC. It's not about Marvin or the or Mr. Patterson. It's about you, the people, right? This conversation right here. So we want you to prepare your questions and make sure they are valid questions. And at the end of this conversation, we're going to open the phone lines so that you can call in and address Mr. Patterson directly and ask him your question that you want answered. All right. So as we say, get them ready and prepare to call in at the end of the conversation. Now, Marvin, you and I had a conversation before Mr. Patterson came on, right? And you
Yes.
spoke very highly of Mr. Patterson. Tell me what about Mr. Patterson makes him this great leader of the U.I.C.
Well, when you find a person who is able to show you the things that you deemed impossible possible, by all means, then you have to give the respect where respect is due. We had a little tour right through the island of Jamaica. A lot of persons didn't know, because it is sad to know that the tour that we were doing, we had to be very careful as to how we go about it. We didn't want mainstream media to know about what we were doing, because we understand the power of the Joseph L. Patterson led administration, and there are a number of persons who are trying to stop this boss. So we have to be very strategic about what we're doing. But we got a chance to complete most of the parishes of Jamaica, maybe about 12 out of the 14 that we have here. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences sitting on the same bus with him. And we spoke for lengthy periods. We spoke, and I got to a chance to understand that the boss is really ready for this, and that he has everything planned out. And I don't want Jamaica to think that this is a facade, this is a joke, and that no third, because we are of the concept that no third party can take the next general election. Well, thank God for Jesus that the people who voted in the last election, it was just, I believe, 37% that came out in the last general election. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the fact that we had more than 60% of the Jamaican voting population who didn't come out for the general election, that's a strong sign. And I am sure out of that 68%, some of them got money, because that is the way of how the two parties go about them things. Them go around and bribe the people, them would want one drink at the bar, one look $500 one and whatever, to get people to vote for them. But I am happy that this is not so with our administration. And those people got money, but they never come vote because they're tired of the two party. So when I sat with Joseph Patterson on the bus, I learned a lot of things about him. And one of those things was the fact that he taught me a lot of things that I didn't know. So he's the better man for the position. I am happy that I didn't go create my own party, because my party that lose. This is the man that has a plan for Jamaica as it relates to agriculture. Agriculture was one of the biggest things, and he opened my eyes to it. And one of the countries that he has a lot of respect for in how they go about the whole agriculture thing is the Netherlands, Holland. And to find that the Netherlands don't even have mountains and stuff over there, a flat piece of land, but those persons are, that country rather, is the second largest country in terms of distributing agriculture products across the world. And on an average, they make about 95 billion euro dollars per year, which if you should do the euro, the calculation between the euro dollar to Jamaica, it's 176 to 1. Yeah. So 95 billion times 176, you're going to look at, I think you're looking at about 16.7 trillion Jamaican dollars. If the government of Jamaica had put the efforts into agriculture as the Netherlands did, and we have the real ground, the right, nice, mature, firm. So Joseph Patterson was the one who put me on that path and helped me to understand how lucrative agriculture can be for the Jamaican people. The local farmers are struggling. Yeah, import onion and cabbage and all kind of things, but we already can grow here. So what do you think that is why we have the crowd we have in the marketplace. Everybody are trying to sell two finger banana over here, and two pound of yam over here. So, and most of these persons could have been heading to the export centers, which we plan to do, and nothing that we grow here will get the chance to be imported here. I can tell you that. So local farmers, don't worry yourself. But there are many more things about Joseph Patterson that I could talk about. His mannerism, the love for the Jamaican people, him respect people. He cares. As a matter of fact, another thing that stood out for me was that Joseph L. Patterson was the director of finance for the northern parts of Canada. The same Canada where everybody I got Kingston to get visa for run go to. See him on there, and nobody in a Canada now look for him because he never thief nobody money. His name is not in any corruption book, right? He fixed most of the financial issues that the northern part of Canada was having. Him, the specialist. As a matter of fact, right now, over 120 countries, I am sure there are companies and business people who can attest to the fact that Joseph L. Patterson fixed their financial situations. And if he did that, then no wonder why the present administration and the opposition, they don't want a man like this to come to Jamaica to fix the problems that we've been having for so long. So I am willing to die. I am willing to put my head on the block that Joseph L. Patterson, the United Independence Congress, is ready. If Andrew Holness and his team resign on morning, and they should, we are ready to implement and take back the country. We can make Jamaica. We are not guaranteeing any Jamaican wealth, but we're guaranteeing Jamaicans that they can retire with dignity. They can have money. They can live. They can go to the supermarket and then not be fret what am I gonna come out of the store with. Because when you go there, most of it, if you ever check the heart rate for people who go to the supermarket, especially those living off minimum wage, it's very sad. So that is Joseph L. Patterson for me.
Marvin, with such an introduction, I don't think I need to introduce Mr. Patterson anymore. I'm just going to say, Mr. Patterson, take it over. With such an introduction, I don't think I need to introduce Mr. Patterson anymore. But Mr. Patterson, once again, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Marvin said the state of the country is in shambles right now. It's not been good for quite a while, right? Now, what can you come in to do to make some changes for the Jamaican people? Because we need changes, right? We need to see some difference and not just talking, because that's one of the problems Jamaicans have to. Jamaicans saying, listen, we're tired of the talking. All we hear is talking. We need actions right now, right? So that's my very first question to you, Mr. Patterson. What change can you bring forward for the Jamaican people?
Well, first of all, let me just say a big thank you to Mr. Marvin Edgar for the excellent introduction that he has made. A bit of an oversell, to be honest. I mean, I have,
Come
I
on.
have made a lot of contributions in a number of areas, particularly in Canada, working in a number of financial sectors, from being in government for the Northern Territories on the finance side to helping with the school system, the financial side of that as well for the school system, and a number of other private enterprises. And of course, and I've worked with and impacted a number of countries, 120 or so to be exact. And he spoke about the Netherlands, where I spent quite a bit of time traveling back and forth and looking at their systems and studying the way they do things. And everything he says about their agricultural sector is phenomenal. I want to kind of bring your attention to a few things which I think will set up the rest of the discussion. These are some basic statistics that I think will blow your mind if you think about it. So Jamaica is 15 times the size of Singapore, and the Netherlands is 15 times the size of Singapore. Singapore is only 719 square kilometers, while Jamaica is almost 11,000 square kilometers. The Netherlands is about 4 times, 3.8 to be exact, times Jamaica. So the Netherlands is one of the smaller European countries. Now let's look at this. I'm going to show you significant here. The Netherlands, Singapore, which is so small. Jamaica is 15 times the size of Singapore, but Jamaica only have half the size of Singapore's population. Singapore has 5.7 million people, 5.8 million people in Singapore. We have 2.9 million roughly in Jamaica. The Netherlands have 6 times as many people as Jamaica. Okay, 17.4 million. Now watch this carefully. Singapore is a very barren country, piece of rock. They exported $13.7 billion in agricultural products from their small piece of rock. 13.7 billion. Jamaica exported 238 million versus Singapore's 13 billion. The Netherlands exported 95.5 billion. Now watch me carefully. Singapore, as a result of the way it has managed its country, remember, a small little country, but with more people than us, Singapore exports in total export 65, or let's say $65,000 per person they export to the rest of the world. Jamaica export per person $640 versus 64,000 from Singapore. The Netherlands export per person $30,000. So here's the Netherlands, which is much bigger than Singapore, exports a little bit less than half the amount of Singapore. And Jamaica, which is 15 times Singapore, only exports $640 per person. What is causing that? The reason Jamaica is such a low exporter is because of our system of governance and our leaders. They have systematically eroded the capacity of the Jamaican people to produce and export. Every year, they fail at educating our nation. Every year, they failed at securing the people. So the level of security necessary for investment is not there. Every year, they fail to build up our infrastructure so that we have an efficient, highly connected country that allows people to move goods and services very fast. What will the U.I.C do about this? We understand the real cause of the problem, and it begins with our system of governance. As long as you have a system that allows maximum corruption to run wild, you will not be able to control crime, and you will not be able to grow the economy. Because every time you take one step forward, the system itself undermines your capacity to build and to grow. So the U.I.C is going to start by making Jamaica a non-partisan constitutional republic. What do we mean by this? Simple things, like making sure that the executive branch of government is separated from the legislative branch of government. Why is that so important? Well, if you have the branch that's responsible for executing the policies is mixed with the branch which is responsible for overseeing or providing oversight and holding accountable those who are implementing the policies, then you have a serious problem. And that's what we have in Jamaica. We have our ministers of government being also legislators. So you can't have the same persons who must implement with the same persons who must monitor. So we're going to separate the two. So we're going to have ministers of government or subject matter experts who are competent to do the job. We're going to have those people be separate and apart from politicians. The politicians must focus on legislation and providing oversight and investigating where things are going, whether it's going right or wrong, and scrutinizing budgets and following up on policy and checking to see if the implementing branch, the executive branch, is doing the right thing. So a part of that comes, how do you structure the relevant branches? One is the Senate. Right now, your listeners may not know this, but all 21 senators are appointed by the Prime Minister, the majority of them, and by the opposition leader. This makes your senators lackeys. They are not strong persons who can look out for the interest of Jamaicans. Instead, they are the hand-picked friends and companies of the Prime Minister and the opposition leader. And so we're going to change that by having elected senators. And when you have 14 elected senators, one for each parish, they're going to look out for the best interest of those who are electing them to represent them in the Senate. The same thing in the House of Representatives. Once we separate them from the executive branch and let them focus on their job as MPs and as councillors, they're going to ensure that they hold the government accountable, because they themselves will not have any access to touch and spend the people's money. So they're going to be very jealous for it. They're going to be very guarded for it. And they're going to want to show to their constituents that they're doing their work. by having a microscopic view of what's happening in terms of policy implementation, in terms of budget and budgetary spending, and they're going to make sure that the things are accountable. This is how we're then going to address the crime problem. Once you have that separation of powers taking place and the proper checks and balances now in place, you're going to find that how we appoint commissioners and how we appoint deputy commissioners and how we appoint other senior members of the police force, you're going to have now the same kind of checks and balances trickling down into the police so that you're going to have greater accountability happening. The U.I.C has a plan to convert the police force into a police service. This includes changing the way they're trained, changing the way they're compensated, and changing the way that they're equipped to carry out their jobs. We're going to move the police from being an enemy of the people to becoming a friend of the citizens, working in the community at the community level, living within the community, working with the people, building the bonds that is necessary with the people so that we have a police service that serves, protect, and respect the people of Jamaica. On top of that, we have to ensure that the young people who are leaving the school system are not leaving to idleness. Right now, we're failing about 70% of our students every year, which means the school system itself needs fixing. On top of that, we just suffered 2 years of learning loss because of bad government policy. The U.I.C is committed to implementing the Youth Employment Solution Program, which will ensure that our young people who are not going on to college or university or into a trades program goes immediately into a on-the-job training apprenticeship program where they're paid to learn, develop skills, and add value to the companies to which you're added. So no child will now leave school and end up at home. They're all going to be in a productive environment where they can learn and grow and contribute to the economy. Let me stop there for now.
Thank you, sir. Very well said. Now, Mr. Patterson, while you touched briefly on the police force just now, there is something that it's pressing me that I need your word on. All right, so we've seen videos making the rounds on social media where in one instance there was a police officer threatening a young man, right? And it went viral. And there's another video where another police officer was telling another person straight up, listen, me I go shoot you, kill you, right? Now, what's your take on those videos? Because shouldn't those officers in those videos be reprimanded some way, somehow?
Every one of those officers should be immediately terminated. Once you have breached the trust which is placed in you as a police officer and as a politician as well. I mean, for example, you just saw recently where the Prime Minister set the very bad example of having laws which are broken by his own ministers and then he brings them back into the cabinet. This is the kind of corruption, this is the kind of demoralizing impact of our leadership. So when you have those police officers doing what they've done, which is to show a blatant disregard for justice and for the law and for respecting the rights of the Jamaican people, they have to be summarily dismissed. They must be dismissed immediately. They must be taken out of the well, they call it a police force. I hate to call it a force because it really shouldn't be that. So my position is they should be fired. But more importantly, we need to understand, though, what is happening here. Our police officers are operating under severe stress and duress. Just imagine, as a police officer, going to work every day and not being able to afford a decent standard of living for yourself and your family, for your children, to have the respect of your wife or your husband, to have the respect of your community, to know that you are in a profession which is respected by your employer, in this case, the government, and therefore respected by the broader society. So our police officers are struggling. They have to be doing side hustling. Many of them are operating without the requisite tools. They also see where many times they make arrests, and those that they arrest who they know are criminals, maybe back on the streets immediately. So the environment for the police officer is very stressful. And when you're under such stress, you can snap. but that is no excuse for not being a professional. When you join the police force, you join it knowing that the job is going to be difficult and that you're expected to operate at a certain level. But I'm appealing to the powers that be to really address the remunerations of the police. They've had outstanding wages in the rank and file for now 13 years unpaid by the government. That needs to be addressed. The current compensation package is way out of line when compared to the cost of living. That needs to be addressed. And obviously, the equipment and training of the police needs to be developed in a way so that our police officers can once again be professionals. We need professionals as police. We need to treat them that way, compensate them that way. And then at the end of the day, we're going to have the quality services that we expect of such men and women in uniform.
Thank you, sir. The Jamaican people seem to have lost trust, faith, and belief in politicians. Is that what you sense from the Jamaican people, that they've lost
Absolutely.
all trust in politicians?
Absolutely.
Do you believe that you can regain the people, right, to trust you as a politician coming into wanting to be the leader of the country?
Yeah. It's a difficult task. The people of Jamaica have every right to distrust politicians. They have now seen 77 years of the two major political parties. And what have they seen? If you look at it carefully, on value of their dollar gone from being greater than the US dollar to now being as low as needing 155 Jamaican dollars to buy one US dollars. They have seen where their communities have gone from being relatively crime free, where we were a community. We used to work with each other, help each other, share a cup of salt over the fence and so on, to seeing a country now where we're very selfish, self-centered and disconnected and antisocial, violent, vile, vicious, mean. This has been presided over by these two major parties for the 77 years. So the people don't have a basis on which to trust politicians. They have every reason to distrust them. Now, we in the U.I.C., the United Independence Congress of Jamaica, is committed to rebuilding and gaining that trust. One of the ways that people know they can trust us is that it would have been much easier for me to have joined one of the two if my interest was simply to gain power so that, like the others, I could gain access to their financial treasury and to be able to take out that money to enrich myself. The easiest and quickest path to do that would have been to join one of the two. But I chose to build the impossible, which is a third movement, which is they have done everything to stop us from becoming a political party, and they're still doing everything. Right now, they have used the media against us because they're making sure that the Jamaican people hears very little about the U.I.C. through radio or television. They have used the Electoral Commission against us, fighting us for 10 months. They have consistently gotten monies from the private sector organization of Jamaica, billions of dollars, to fool the people and keep them in one particular position. Therefore, the Jamaican people can know that the U.I.C. is the best option because every effort is being made to stop us from connecting with the people, to stop the people from knowing about us, and they can see clearly that the U.I.C. as a leader and leadership. Listen, I am so very impressed with the hundreds of persons who have now joined this movement, who are giving their time and their talent and their treasure to the movement. People like Marvin Edgar. If you think about it, Jamaicans are struggling with their own lives, and now they have decided to volunteer, donate, and give of themselves to build a movement which they're told is impossible and pointless, and we're still doing it. That should give the Jamaican people the appreciation, the understanding, the fact that they can now trust this movement because it is the People's Party.
Jamaicans, well, this is something that I personally want you to address, Mr. Patterson. You were recently arrested, and it's because of the Liberty March that you did, right? Now, immediately after your arrest, well, not immediately, the following day after your arrest, I noticed that another party did the very same thing that you were arrested for, and no one was arrested. What's your what's your take on that?
Well, it's all a part of the system, eh? We live in a system where the laws and rules don't go for everybody. That's why the UIC wants equal rights and justice and freedom for all. We live in a society where the two major parties and other subsector of the organization can do things and nobody holds them accountable. But when a threat to their system rises up, then suddenly all the laws must be applied against them. And, we're not surprised that the other party came out and was not arrested and was not accosted and was not assaulted. You saw recently as well where the police federation, they had a court case at the Supreme Court, and their members came out in their numbers on the steps of the court, and
Yes.
nobody interfered with them at all.
Mhm.
But yesterday, we had our court case in Mandeville, and before I could even get to the court comfortably, I got a message from the deputy superintendent telling me that he's aware that I have told people that I'm going to be at court, and I have called them together, and he wants me to know that the police will be out in their numbers to ensure that the law is fully respected, and so on. So a veiled threat, if you will. And of course, they did come out. They were there, all over the place to make sure that, if they could find any grounds, they could do something. But there was no grounds. But it's just the way the country is. This is the way Jamaica is. It's two Jamaica, one for the elites and those who are connected and protected by the political system, by the political elites, by the business elites, and then the rest of us who are outside of that net. And that's why the UIC wants to create one Jamaica, a Jamaica where we have one set of laws that applies to every Jamaican equally and that protects the life, liberty, and property rights of all Jamaicans all the time.
Mr. Patterson, listen, you touched something a while ago now, and it pushed me where we need to go. Right? You say there's two Jamaica, right? And despite this is not what you said, right? The maroon thing. Let's touch on that for a little bit, right? Because you said there's two Jamaica. When the PM said, "Listen, Jamaica is I'm sure you saw what he said, right?
Mhm.
Basically shutting out the maroons, right?
Yes.
And before I even ask you that question, let's bring Marvin in a little bit to get his take on what the Prime Minister had to say about the Maroons, and then I want to hear from you, Mr. Patterson. Marvin, tell me, my brother, what's your take about this whole Maroon thing and the Prime Minister?
Well, first and foremost, boy, I mean, when I came in, Bridget, blouse. But yes, first and foremost, I must say that to the people of a compound, Maroon Town, Chief Curry, and the people there. These people have been down there for so many years. They have fought. They have fought for their lands. It is even in our history books. As something what we learn in a history class, every Jamaican go through it. Well, most of we not remember it because a lot of we found history class to be boring. But it doesn't negate the fact that it is there in the books, right? These people should be respected. You understand? Nani and Kojo and them people fight for the peace of land and them get the treaty. I don't even, well, to be honest with you, I don't know if the corrupt government, if over the years, them probably meddle with the treaty, and maybe that's why them have the kind of talk to them have. You understand? But from the Maroon standpoint, the people them have all right to be upon them land. And we need to pay respect to the people them. But Mr. Patterson was correct. You understand? The government of Jamaica don't have no respect for Jamaicans as a whole. I mean, the Prime Minister himself the other day, the man don't tell you. Anybody him catch with a gun, if it was left up to him, now give them life imprisonment. Now, how can you talk like that when we have so much gunmen out there? When we know for a fact, yeah, or sorry, it is alleged that politicians have contributed to the guns right here in Jamaica, where them give to the people, and they've corrupted the minds of our young men. There are so many of our young men who got corrupted because the system failed them. The government system failed them. And now because the system, now them realize say, they are about to get caught. Them find ways to get rid of the youths them. And we here from the United Independent Congress, we want to send a strong message out to the ghetto youths them, to the youths them fearful. Enough of them want to give up the gun. But all you have to give up gun when the Prime Minister of Jamaica make a declaration, say, yo, if you're caught, and this is gonna be your end. Me not gonna carry my gun because I don't want life imprisonment. So me that prefer stand up in the bush with it. But don't worry. When you vote for the United Independent Congress, I can't even tell you the plans that we have to make sure so we restore the young men in Jamaica and bring back the country to a place where every single Jamaican will live in dignity and feel good to be here and can take care of their families. Every single Jamaican. I am confident enough. There is no doubt. There is absolutely no doubt that the United Independent Congress with its leader, Joseph L. Patterson, we are ready to lead Jamaica to a place that Jamaica has never, ever gone before.
All right.
Yeah, me done more yet. Unless the call asks you a question. Me done more.
You say it with a lot of passion. You sound passionate
I
about
am passionate about it because I believe in it. I believe and I know it can happen. It's not just a belief. I know it can happen. I've seen it on papers. Me talk to the man. Me know. I know that it can happen and Jamaica can be saved from what it is now. We can be saved in short order. We don't even need a 2-term to do this. 1 term. Give me 1 term and watch what we do. 1 term. Them get 70. This year is going to make it 78 years of nothing, of nothingness. Everything that they've done points back to corruption. And we just have one set of family in Jamaica who at them alone make all of the money. And at them alone, everything. When you go up, so you see some people that drive some kind of vehicle. Whereas you come to Jamaica and you see some way, not even a bicycle we can buy. Teachers have to be in schools. I sell sweetie, to make up them salary. Teachers, as a matter of fact, I'm not going to call the police station, but throughout our journey across the island, we found a police station. Yeah, me not gonna load up the people and business. But we found a police station where at the front desk, the people them have Toco Loco and Sweetie and sitting in a cell. Police have a cell sitting in a station to make it, and this is bad. It is bad. Whereas the government of Jamaica can find $3 billion or whatever it is to go make parliament. And what do they do in parliament? Sit down around fancy, sit down in leather seats and beat on deck. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, be nice. And that you take $3 billion when teachers don't have any pay, the police officers, the people are overwhelmed. And no wonder why Mr. Patterson addressed it earlier. This is why the police work. Them can't come out. The people, them must snap. Them frustrated because they're doing so much thing to keep law and order, but it'll get to them now because they're not being paid. They're not being compensated for the effort that they're putting in to stabilize this country and keep it in a law and order. And the truth is nothing is going to become of it because the police force as it is have very, very good police officers. We've met some very good police who wants to do good for the country, but they're out right now. We have so many bad ones who it's corrupted, man, corrupted. So U.I.C, you see him there, Jamaica. So the next, not even as a prime minister, so the next president there, see him there, see him right there. So no look for him. Him have a plan for Jamaica. 1 term, give me 1 term and watch. One.
Well, Marvin, listen. Marvin, you said it, You say,
okay,
give 1 term and watch. We will be watching. The people will be watching. Don't think say the people won't be watching, Yes, people on here. Marvin said, give them 1 term and watch. The people will be watching, Marvin. Mr. Patterson, let's hear your take on what the Prime Minister had to say about Upon Town and the Maroons and all of that.
Yeah, first of all, I must say I was very disappointed by the Prime Minister. He continues to prove more and more that he's not really ready for the job, which is quite unfortunate because he has now had close to 6 years to administer the affairs of the country, and on every account, he has failed. He promised us economic growth. He has failed to achieve that. He promised us a safe Jamaica. He has failed to achieve that. He decided to approach the COVID crisis of being a strongman, a dictator, which was the wrong approach. And again, that has also backfired and failed. So clearly the Prime Minister is not doing very well on the job. And we saw him crying the other day as a result. And then he snapped. He snapped at the reporter because obviously he's not quite happy with his achievements. He has promised his colonial masters to get to a certain level of injections, and he has not been able to do that because the Jamaican people have stood up firmly. And right now, 80% of us have said clearly we do not want this injection. So the prime minister is unhappy and is not doing well. But when
If I
he,
may
yes,
interject, sorry,
sure,
Mr.
yes,
Patterson, if I may interject.
yes,
So many Jamaicans have the notion that the prime minister is having an issue with the Maroon chief and the
yes,
Maroons simply because him want the land, because him lease out the land and there's issues there with the Maroons. So that's let's just
yeah.
get straight and blunt to
So,
the
so,
point, because
so yeah, man. So
that's what many
that.
Jamaicans thinking.
I want to show the Jamaican people that there is a trend here, and the prime minister is becoming more and more angry, dictatorial, because he has made commitments and promises that he's unable to keep without violating the rights of the Jamaican people. And so, what he has done with the Maroon situation is that he has made commitment when it comes on to land rights and mining, and being able to be able to extract those wealth and benefit himself and those who are behind the scenes. Now, the Maroons have a very special place in history in the Jamaican context, and their treaty has a very special place in our legal system. But no time has been taken from so-called independence to now to have a proper diplomatic discussion between the government of Jamaica, who is operating under the sovereignty of the Queen of England and not operating as a government that respects the sovereignty of the people of Jamaica. That government needs to have a diplomatic discussion with the Maroons, who have their own basis for wanting the land to be appropriated to them. It will not happen because the so-called constitution that we have right now, which is not a constitution but an order from the crown itself, does not leave room for the Maroons and the government to have the kind of discussion which is necessary, which is why it's important that we now have a Jamaican constitution where we, the people of Jamaica, vote for a constitution that takes us from under the crown and completely does away with all of the existing extraneous relationships that we have, that makes it difficult for the country to have the conversation it needs to have about the Maroons, about our territories, about our sovereignty as individuals and our sovereignty as a collective, and then to work it through. So, to answer your question directly, the U.I.C is 100% committed to having a sovereign Jamaica with sovereign citizens within Jamaica, and to have a place for respecting the rights and properties of the Maroons, as well as the rights of other groups within Jamaica, such as the Rastafarian, who has been treated atrociously over the years by the very government of Jamaica that should have protected their rights. So there's a lot of rights issue here, unstoppable, that needs to be resolved. Let us not be crazy passionate in our responses, but rather seek a diplomatic, decent, reasoned approach that's based on facts. Let's understand the facts of the agreements reached between the Maroons and the British. Let's understand the facts as it relates to what has gone on from the 1700s to 1962 to today, and let us make sure that in the end we fully respect the sovereignty of every single person in Jamaica, whether they consider themselves Maroons or not, and let us respect the rights and boundaries that those persons inherited through history. And one last thing, this is very important. Let's remember that the people of Jamaica have been denied their rights to land. They were previously held as slaves, and when that was brought to an end, they have not been granted their land rights. And so the U.I.C is committed to dissolving this arrangement called Crown Lands and making sure that those lands become the legal property of the Jamaican people.
Have you had a conversation with the leader of the Maroons, the Chief Richard Curry?
No, I've reached out to him a number of times, but he has not returned my calls. I've not been able to speak with him. But I've spoken with other members of the Maroon community. We have some of them even representing us in the upcoming election. So we have a close bond with the Maroons in terms of the people. But the leadership of the Akampong Maroons have not been very forthcoming in terms of being available for having discussions so we can talk about how best to protect the interest of that segment of our country, because we believe in protecting the rights of all Jamaicans. And so we have invited everyone to the table, and those who come forward, we have discussions with them as to how we're going to protect their rights.
What would you say to Chief Curry right now, just in case he comes across this live?
I would say let's have a talk now. That's the most important thing. Let us sit down and talk. Let us reason. We need to get rid of this vitriol and this aggression that we have, among ourselves in the Maroon community. It's important that we have an inclusive approach to problem solving. No one man, no one woman, no one group has all the answers. We need to dialogue. We need to find common ground. And a part of the dialogue, is education, because the great many citizens of Jamaica don't even understand Maroon history, don't understand the treaty, don't understand the legal ramifications and implications. And so if we have dialogue and educate each other and educate the Jamaican population, we can reach the really good win-win solutions for all Jamaicans. But there's one thing we all agree on: the Maroons and the U.I.C. and many Jamaicans, we must stop the mining of our lands. We must recognize the value of those lands, the impact it has on our water table, the impact it has on our biodiversity, the impact it will have on the future and the wealth of the Jamaican people and our generations yet to come. We must stop the mining immediately, as quickly as possible, and we must protect the biodiversity of Jamaica, of our small country, relatively speaking, and we must guard our prime asset, which is our land.
Great. Now, Mr. Patterson, since your arrest, right, several persons has reached out to me personally, um, based on the fact that I had you on the program before, and it seemed as if I was a strong supporter of the U.I.C. So many persons reached out to me asking me, Unstoppable, where is Mr. Patterson? Why are we not hearing anything from Mr. Patterson since his arrest? Has he gone in hiding? Has he just give up because of the arrest? So there are persons asking that question.
Mhm.
So what's your response to that?
Well, I was wondering why you haven't invited me back for an interview since then. So I've been here waiting,
Mhm.
working, doing a lot of work. I mean, it's not easy to build a political movement. We're talking about traversing the length and breadth of this country, working with so many diverse people, providing training, guidance. It's a massive task that we're undertaking here. Now, what would have been normal in a country where you have democracy and a country where you have freedom of the press, you would have been hearing about the U.I.C.'s activities from mainstream media, and that would have kept us going. So, people, for example, the media has not called to follow up as to say what is really happening. We have reached out to them; they haven't reached out to us. We have been to court several times. The media is not there to follow the story to say, look at what is happening. The media doesn't say, oh, look at the police federation doing similar things to the U.I.C. Why is it that they're not being treated the same way? None of these stories are in the media, and so that's why you're not hearing from Mr. Patterson. But I'm working very, very hard. It's just that you have to decide, what is it you spend your time on. Now, if persons like yourself, Unstoppable, Jamaican Carlos, Wayne Lonesome, and others now pick up the slack, the journalistic slack, and now start asking the questions and providing the coverage, then will be helping the Jamaican people to get the information they need. So hats off to you, by the way. Congrats for taking the steps to get us back on your program today and for asking the questions that will let Jamaicans know what we're doing. But rest assured, I'm hard at work, but we do not have mainstream coverage. So you, my friends, in the vlogosphere, you have to be the ones to carry it for the Jamaican people and help them to know that the U.I.C is alive and well, and I'm fully engaged in the activities to bring Jamaica the alternative it needs.
Right. Now, let's talk a little bit about the poor people, Mr. Patterson. The poor people of Jamaica who is really feeling the hardship, right? Because that's really my concern. The people who go to bed at night time and can hardly even find a little bit of butter for put on them bread,
Mm.
even if them have bread. Let's talk a little bit about them. Because so many persons message me from time to time and they say, Unstoppable, listen, cost of living just keeps getting higher and higher, but yet still we can't find a job. Or if we do have a job, the salary now increase. What's your address to that, Mr. Patterson? Because a lot of people hurting in Jamaica. A lot.
Yes, yes. I mean, a lot of people are hurting while we have persons who are looting the tax coffers. Every day you're hearing about monies that are missing, uh, unaccounted for. You have persons who are going through the court systems who are still getting their full pays and salaries at the expense of the taxpayers, even though they're on charges of corruption and so on. So the real problem in Jamaica is the unstoppable, and it's really disheartening because there's so many things we can do to fix the problem, but it all hinges on governance, good governance. Who is in charge? What are they doing? What are their plans for Jamaica? So right now, our productive sector is declining more and more and more and more, and it's being taken over by foreign interests more and more and more. So why is this happening? Because our system of governance is designed to concentrate wealth in the hands of a few. The gatekeepers are our politicians, our prime ministers, our MPs, just 63 men and women right now lock down the economy of this country. They are controlling whether the economy expands or contract, whether people have opportunities or not. And the reason we can't have the opportunity is that every single deal that is made in this country is made on political grounds. How will we do this so that few people, our connected few, gets the majority of the benefit? That is what is happening now in Jamaica. And so until we break the back of this system, until we completely undo this and redesign the way Jamaica operates, we're going to continuously have this discussion. And what you're going to have now is political solutions. When I say political, I mean game playing gimmicks. So one of the
Mhm.
gimmicks now is each party will find new things to hold up to say, we will do this if you elect us. So right now, Mark Golden of the PNP is playing the tried and true card. Elect us and we'll give you $12,000 for minimum wage, right? So that's the games they play with. That's the games that they play with the Jamaican people, and they'll continue to do that until we put a stop to it and say enough of the games. Let's have good governance. So we don't want you to play with us and offer us minimum wage. We want a Jamaica where we can earn a maximum wage, where we can earn to our maximum potential. And for us to get to that Jamaica, we need a different system of governance, and that system is what the U.I.C is prescribing for the Jamaican people.
Great. All right, Marvin. So let's talk a little bit about the police force now. I heard Mr. Patterson's views on that, right? And you touched on the police force a little bit, but I want to talk about something specific. I saw the police went into a community recently and went on a loudspeaker, asking for persons of interest to turn themselves in. Do you believe that was a good move, Mr. Patterson?
Absolutely not. I mean, these are the kind of gimmicks and games, and we have our policemen behaving quite unprofessionally and carrying on with antics like these. What you want is a police service where the persons are properly investigating and solving crime. So you can't have, for example, where they go out with states of emergencies and just round up people, lock them up without trial for how many months under states of emergencies, and then release them back into society angry, now connected with even other criminals. And then you have to do these, you go and do these gimmicks. What we need, Unstoppable, is for us to have proper policing. Simple things like being able to gather evidence properly so that you can secure convictions in court, as opposed to just having these PR stunts that the prime minister keeps sending our police officers on. Having grandstanding in parliaments to have states of emergencies and say, "Oh, are you going to support us or not?" And having um, futile zones of operations where you go out there and you do some public relations stunts. You have crime being murders in a particular area being suppressed for a few days or a weeks or a month or so, and then as soon as you move on, everything flares back up. We cannot continue to do this. It's very expensive. We're spending billions of dollars every year on these gimmicks, as opposed to having true policing, true leadership, good governance. And the truth of the matter is, Unstoppable, as long as we don't address the crime problem from those who are feeding it, and we know who are feeding it, it's the big men that and those in elite positions that are feeding this. They're the ones who control the guns coming in, right? It's not the small man at the bottom who with him pants dropping off in bottom who is just gonna pull the trigger. It's not him who is controlling the massive importation of guns and ammunition. So if we want to solve the problem, let's go after the top criminals, which are at the top of our society, who are in our parliaments or in our boardrooms or at the top of our police force. Let's have external help. Let's get some real external help now, right? To go after these, to do the forensic investigation, track down their assets, dig into where the monies are coming from and going, and we'll quickly find those, apprehend them, try them, and send them to jail for a very, very long time. Let us show that we're serious about solving crime and stop this gimmick, which is costing the Jamaican people billions of dollars in debt without delivering a safe environment where they can actually plan and invest and grow their lives in a very constructive way. We must fix the problem from the top down.
Now, we've another video that I saw where poor people, poor vendors, having their goods taken away from them when they're out there trying to make an honest buck, right? We've seen several of those videos go viral on social media, and even one that I saw where a lady was selling some jerk chicken and the police just went and just kick over a jerk pan. You know, what's your answer to that or response to that?
Where is the prime minister on these things? He seems to take offense every time somebody says something bad about him, and somehow they get arrested by the police or otherwise. Where is the prime minister on dealing with these atrocities being meted out to the people of Jamaica? It is time for us to stop having the poor people of Jamaica suffer while people like our prime minister are building massive mansions on the backs of the Jamaican people. They're building huge mansions, enjoying. I was, I, my wife and I had a conversation over the Christmas holidays. I had a hard time putting out anything, any message, any pictures, anything. It was very difficult for me because I saw the prime minister and the opposition leader putting out these beautiful pictures in their mansions, in their stately homes, in their colonial settings, looking so rich and wealthy. And when I look at the people I pass every day when I drive to my house here in St. Elizabeth, the road I live on, I have to pass people living in board houses. You understand? Dilapidated, they can't change their roof, they can't fix their toilet. Some of them have they have to go to a water pipe, a standpipe out of Breeze River Desert to get some water. And I saw the opulence being displayed by our prime minister and opposition leader, and their wonderful, fanciful Christmas messages, behaving as if they're living in a fairy tale land, as if the rest of the Jamaican population is living anything close to what they're living. And you ask yourself the question, how did they get there? What did they do to get to where they are? You have a prime minister who has spent all of his working life in politics, all of it. And I know they'll have some story to tell you, and they'll call people bad mind and they'll say all of these things. But I am tired of it. I am tired of seeing the degradation, the poverty, the ugliness, the sadness. You know, I went into classrooms recently, and you look in the eyes of some of the students, you see they want better, and my heart cries out because I know that they're in a system where the vast majority of them are going to end up unemployed, underemployed, underpaid, and poor and suffering for the rest of their lives, simply because of the system and the kind of leadership that we've had up until now for almost 78 years. It's time for us to change.
One of the best ways I believe the U.I.C can win in the next election is by winning over the poorer class of people of Jamaica. That's my opinion. You know, I believe that the easiest way for the U.I.C to win in the next election is by winning over the poorer class of Jamaican people who is already fed up of it. Mr. P, do you have a fan on?
No,
I'm
I
hearing.
don't.
Okay,
No, I
I'm
don't have a
hearing.
fan on.
Okay,
Um, but I can
no,
tell you the easiest way to win, though.
no, no. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. I
Yeah.
just want to ask. All right. So, how do you intend to captivate the minds of the poorer class of people in Jamaica to say, you know what, I'm going to vote U.I.C.
Mhm.
What
So,
can you say to them right now that will make them say, this is what I'm doing next?
unstoppable. Here's the harsh reality about elections in Jamaica. Elections are not won by um, merely me saying anything right now that is going to sound wonderful and beautiful and effective and connecting with the poor. Elections are won by those who have the money to communicate with people, those who have the ground troops who are on the ground, who are able to connect with persons and bring them directly or indirectly to the polling stations. Uh, the people of Jamaica are fed up. They're not voting. The majority of those who do vote vote because they're induced to do so. And that is why the two major parties are happy that the number of voters are smaller. So those that have to vote, those they're going to bribe to vote, it's a smaller number. When you see a party spending $40 million to win one seat, it tells you how valuable being elected is and how important it is for the private sector organization of Jamaica to be giving those parties those $40 million for one seat to win. So when we talk about winning over the poor people of Jamaica, we have to have a way to communicate with them. We have to reach them. We have to be able to talk to them. And that
Mhm.
requires resources. So what we have to do, with you included, we have to find a way to fund the U.I.C. It's that simple. There's no, I know that there are nicer things we can say, and people would like to hear nice things, but the raw reality of Jamaica, those living here and those abroad, have to come together and fund the U.I.C so that we can send 228 councillor candidates in the community. They have to have water for drink. They have to have food to eat. They have to have data on their phone to connect, to send the videos, to show us a video of them to go live. Many of our candidates can't go live, right? They can't go live because to go live means they have to have data on their phone and they don't have it. They're struggling men and women. That is why the private sector organization of Jamaica is so invested in the other two parties, because they're giving them the funds they need. When you see their pretty photos and their pretty videos and all of these things are being paid for by the wealthy of this country, and they know that they can keep the Jamaican people by fooling them with these pretty videos and these pretty photos, social media all over the place. What the U.I.C has is integrity. What we have is sincerity. What we have is a true blue grassroots movement. And it's time, unstoppable. It's time for us to take it serious. This is
That
Jamaica's
was
last hope.
that was about to be my next
Yes,
question, Mr. Patterson, about
yes,
funding, because I know the PMP has backing, the JLP has backing, plus them have the taxpayer money if you use up as them
correct,
choose to. But
correct.
where the U.I.C is concerned, you know, you're not a rich man,
No,
and you don't have that the backing of corporate society either, or any rich person in your corner, right? So you have been trying to do this from the ground up, and you need the support of the people, the diaspora, right? In which, a few persons has reached out to me as well pertaining to that when you had the GoFundMe, right?
yes.
But I want to ask you, since the GoFundMe launched, has there been a heavy response from persons wanting to contribute to the U.I.C?
So yes and no. The yes is more and more people are donating to the U.I.C. So we're better off today than we were yesterday. So we're getting better. It's not getting better fast enough. So we need to get more donations in. So for example, when we put out the legal defense fund, people criticized us and said, my gosh, how much am I asking for? The newspaper overstated it and said it's $30 million Jamaican. It actually wasn't 30 million, it was closer to 20 million. Now they said, oh, that's a lot of money and whatever. What is that for? Now, since the court case has started until now, just on my side alone, just me, not the amount I pay to the lawyer. The cost to me is $4 million now, and $4 million, well, last year and this year, because that's money that's gone from me because of me being incarcerated. So that's $8 million personally, immediately lost to me as one person. Now, all that doesn't account for now all the trips, all the different engagement with the lawyer. Every time we have to go to court, that is costing us. And the
Mhm.
government has deliberately stretched it out. They know how the system works. They know that every time we have to go to court, it's more money that it's costing us. You understand me? Now, when we have to communicate this to you, how do we do this? How do we mobilize people? Where does money come from to mobilize people? If people in Montego say, I want to come to court, if the JLP or the PNP had a situation like me right now, they would have no problem calling 10 buses, 14 buses, and zoom, zoom from all direction. Buses come and everybody come in, and they can show a massive show of support. When we do it, a Marvin of reach in my pocket and say, here, Miss P, it's a $5,000 a year to my wife to say, give to the treasurer to help. Another person, Shanique, will say, here is $2,000 to help. Another person, Marlon, will say, here is $3,000 to help. Another person, Tammy and Tanya Thelwell, will say, here's another 2, 3, 5, 6,000. Or Carlene Ramirez, here is a 10,000. Carrie, here is a 7,000. That is how it's being done. It's ordinary Jamaicans, suffering Jamaicans. Suffer. Sometimes I feel bad, because the truth is, me personally, right? If I were to do none of this, I have no problem. I have 36 acres of land. I have a very good beekeeping business. I have international contracts, what I do in consulting for financial. I personally can have a nice, decent life, shut off the doors, drive my car in, press my button to have my remote gate open and go in and close my door, go to the grocery, spend $22,000 to fill up a basic basket of grocery, feed my family, and we're okay. I could do that. But when I see the sacrifices being made by ordinary Jamaicans here, who some of them don't know where the next dollar come from. They don't know for sure if next week they're going to have the 5,000 they have this week and they pinch $2,000 out of that and say me I give it to the U.I.C. That is you can't measure that. That is more than a million for them. That's serious money to give 2,000 or to your 3,000, and your daughter must go to school next week. So here's what I'm trying to say, Unstoppable. It's time for us, home and abroad, to realize this is Jamaica's last hope. We allow this third party to fail. We sit down and pretend as if there is some magical way that money is going to come and they're able to find bus and find refreshment and find data and find credit, phone credit, and create posters and create t-shirts and create buttons, and it's just going to happen. No, it's not going to just happen. We have to dig into our pockets. We have to see this like church. Like church, we're going to a church and we build a big mansion. We're poor, no. We're poor at home. We don't have nothing. But we go and we throw money in and we build a very big, nice church that we're proud of. This is the church now. Let's build the U.I.C. and win this election. Take back our country, fix the system, get rid of the Queen, get rid of the Governor General, get rid of the corruption, and start addressing the problem that's going to build the poor, lift the poor, and solve the poor. But if we don't do it, there's no private sector organization that's going to invest in the U.I.C. None. Because they see our manifesto. They know that when we are elected, the gravy train is over. They know that there's not going to be any more opportunities for them to say, yes, Andrew, put through this thing so I can get a big contract to implement needs, and then we're going to get a big money for ourselves, and we're going to be all right. With the U.I.C, them days is done. They know that. And so they're not going to fund us. So we have to fund us. I am committed. I have put my neck on the line. It has cost me. I'm not talking about the other costs, the monies I spend. I have lost, just going to jail, I lost $4 million last year. The same contract would have given me another $4 million this year. So that's 8 million I have lost. I'm just giving you one example. That's not all of it. That's one example. So for me alone, for the same things for the others, Marvin is losing money. When him take time away from him job and dep on the bus with us, and the gas we have to spend, and the lunch we have to buy, we go out and people buy them own lunch. We were out yesterday in Manchester, all over the place, and the U.I.C couldn't buy lunch. We couldn't buy lunch for the people them. Everybody have to go to them pocket. Who can afford big lunch, buy little lunch. You understand me? And then some buy and share with some. This is where we are. The U.I.C is the people's party. We don't have no backer. We don't have no outside international hidden agenda where they're behind the scene and they're going to squeeze us money privately and we spend it and you see things are going on. It's not going to happen. We have no such angel outside of Jamaica, and we have no such angel inside Jamaica. The U.I.C is the purest you're ever going to get to a political party that is going to solve the problem of the poor and the middle class and bring Jamaica from where it is to where it should be. There's no other solution than the U.I.C.
Awesome. I'm seeing several persons in the comment section asking how can they donate to the U.I.C. I know you have a GoFundMe. It's still up and running, correct?
But they don't have to do the GoFundMe. Just go on our website, uicjamaica.com, and click on donate. You'll see the tab there. Go uicjamaica.com, click on donate, and you will see at least 4 different options. You'll see an account you can send to at Scotia. You'll see an account at a credit union. You will see PayPal. You can use your credit card. All of that is there on the system. Just go to uicjamaica.com and click on the donate button. Or the donate tab. It will say donate to the U.I.C. Click on the tab and it will show you all the different opportunities where you can. And if that fail, just contact Marvin and he will make sure that your donation can come through. Just contact us. Anyway, you have our phone number, 293-0812, 293-0812. You text that number. There's always somebody waiting to take your text message, and they will guide you whether in the UK trying to find out how you can send your pounds, or US or Canada, or right here in Jamaica, you just contact us and we'll help you to donate. But we cannot do this without you. There's no way we can do this without you. If we fail to win, it's because we, the Jamaican people, failed to support the U.I.C. And it won't be every Jamaican. It's those of us who could have. You could have sent $10. You could have sent $50. You could have sent $100, and you didn't. When I see people, I mean, I don't want, there's one little lady, an old lady. I don't want to, pick on people. There's an old lady. She could be my mother. She come out on the tour, and she not have no regular income coming, and she come out on the tour and say, me half a day, Mr. Patterson, me half a day, and she come, and she have to find her own little money and buy her own little food, and tears come to my eye. I say, my God, what is this? My people, let us not fail ourselves this time. Let us not fail ourselves this time. This is the moment. This is what, listen, there are some Jamaicans in the past who have meant Jamaica very well. They were in politics, and they tried, and the system gobbled them up and chewed them up and spit them out, and they meant well. They sacrificed. We have met some of them on the road. They're crying. They're sorry to see what their party has done to this country, and they give their best. Some are dead now, never get a chance to see the Jamaica that they wanted. But this is the opportunity for all of those Jamaicans. This is the moment when the people of Jamaica liberate themselves. You see the Maroons fought for their freedom and won it. We were given a fake freedom by our colonial masters. It's time for us, and this is our moment to fight now for our freedom. How we're going to fight? Not with sticks and stones, not with guns and bullets, but with the ballot. We are going to fight now with the ballot. We're going to go through the ballot box, and we're going to show England that we can vote for liberty, and we can liberate ourselves, a new constitution, and we can create a Jamaica that is not a fake republic like Barbados, or a fake republic like Trinidad, or a fake republic like Guyana, or a fake republic like the United States. We can have a real republic here in Jamaica, a republic that respects the sovereignty of all Jamaicans and empower all Jamaicans to achieve their full potential right here in Jamaica without going anywhere.
Mr. Patterson, I'm seeing persons in the comment section asking you to repeat the website and the phone number again for them.
Sure. The website is uicjamaica.com. That's uicjamaica.com. And the phone number is 293-0812. You post the code before it, 876. So 293-0812. 293-0812. uicjamaica.com.
Great. Marvin, as soon we get to you, Marvin, give me one more second. I just want to ask Mr. Patterson one more pressing question, and then we're going to come to you, Marvin. So, Mr. P, we see where a lot of dirty dishes being thrown out right now in social media pertaining to the Prime Minister. People coming out, talking up things, right? Now, you have a plan where when you get in office, and I said when, if you notice, when you get in office, right, to investigate all politicians, present and past, and have them prosecuted for whatever crimes they may have committed. Tell us about that.
Yes, man. The U.I.C is absolutely and resolutely committed to a detailed forensic audit and investigation of all politicians and those connected to them, so that we can see for sure as a people what it is that was done to us. As part of this process, we're going to have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission and an amnesty program, which is very important because we want to make sure that those at the bottom of the crime ladder, those who were the pawns, manipulated, those who were cultured into criminality by those who knew better and led them astray. We want to give those at the bottom a chance to tell us what is going on and know that they're going to be in a program that will help them to be, readjusted and brought back into society and so on. But we want to make sure that we understand how the corruption system has worked in Jamaica to undermine Jamaicans. So we're going to investigate every single one of the politicians, past and present, to the best of our ability. Some you're going to find the information is sketchy, so you can't do anything. But for others, you're going to get enough details. And we're going to bring in outside forensic assistance to track down the assets trail, down how the Jamaican people lost so much money, how so much money passed through our hands, but yet still the vast majority of Jamaicans remain poor, while some among us have become insanely wealthy in the same little Jamaica here. You might have seen, for example, at the start of this administration, in the first term when they were elected, they had a economic czar that they put in place, which the very person is the head of banks in Jamaica. And this person, at the end of 2020, and his bank, billions and billions in profit, while the Jamaican people suffer huge economic loss, destruction to small businesses. And these were by design. They carried out activities where they destroyed small and medium enterprises while allowing larger enterprises freedom to operate and having, therefore, an advantage. These things need to be investigated. And I'm sure when we go into the details, we're going to see where decisions were made at the highest level to cripple the small men, to cripple the micro enterprises, and to protect, enhance, and even build the larger enterprises at the expense of the Jamaican people. We want to get to the bottom of those. Similarly, in the crime sector, all of that. We want to find out who brought in the guns, where the monies came from and where it went, and how that has fueled the crime syndicates that has developed in Jamaica, the gangs in Jamaica, and make sure we get to the bottom of it. The end of it will be that the Jamaican people, into posterity, will know what went wrong and make sure we don't go back there again.
My next question to you, Mr. Patterson, is a lot of Jamaica has been sold out to foreign entities. If the U.I.C should get in power, how do you intend on regaining a lot of the things that has been sold out from the country? Is that even possible for the U.I.C to do?
Yeah, good question. Now, the good thing is, and we've been so poor for so long that we don't realize that Jamaica is a very, very wealthy country. We have not yet tapped into 1/4 of the wealth of Jamaica, to be honest. Even the government actions that have failed us have left much of our agricultural lands on the bush, and which is not a bad thing because now they're actually, because of the years of not being under production. But yes, many of our assets have been sold. Some we don't even know yet about the deals that have been made and reached, which put the Jamaican people at a disadvantage. But the beauty of having a semblance of a democratic process is that when you have a new government that comes into office, that government has the latitude of negotiating and renegotiating a number of things. There are sacrifices that we're going to have to make. For example, the people of Cuba, they made their sacrifice in the 1950s, 60s, when they decided to go a different direction. And as a result of that, they were cut off from certain things and all of that. But they have done very well in the process. We will be more strategic than they were. We're going to also learn from other countries who came out of similar situation and made decisions that moved their country ahead despite the previous bad decisions, like Singapore, for example. You watch how Lee Kuan Yew navigated the diplomatic space and was able to undo some of the bad things that his predecessors did and bring his country forward. I can assure you that I've taken the time to study a number of leaders and negotiation strategies and will employ those. I can't tell you everything now. It will be ill-advised to do so, but we will be able to navigate and renegotiate and move Jamaica into a new direction. We're going to recover our toll roads.
Do you have a figure? Do you have a figure on how much money Jamaica owes China, the US, other countries? Do you have a figure on that?
I don't have a figure off the top of my head right now that I could share with you, but I can say this: we're coming from a situation where we're close to 150% of GDP, debt to GDP, 150% debt to GDP. We have come down in recent years, on the books at least, to just under 100% to GDP. The Jamaican people have paid a huge sacrifice over the last 20 years, in terms of belt tightening, and not by leadership of our own politicians, but by force, where the IMF dictated that you had to bring down the debt to GDP ratio, or they would not give us any standby agreements. And so, from the Bruce Golding era of 2007 to now, our leaders have been forced to contract the debt somewhat. What the current prime minister has done now is to create a lot of what is called off-book debt, off-balance sheet debts, which you can't clearly get to those numbers because of how he has structured it. And what you do with those kind of debts now, you make commitments to your partners, in this case China. You make commitments which are not denominated in dollars but in resources, and then those are then not recorded on your books because they're not quantified for recording. And so we will only learn about them after we have a government, and then we can now bring all of this to light and make you aware of what deals were made, because now the Chinese, for example, will come and ask that you honor those arrangements, and then we can quantify them and report them to the Jamaican people. And outside of that now, it's about great leadership. Do we have the leader that wants what's best for Jamaicans and are willing now to stand up and fight with the Chinese, with the Americans, with the British, with the Spanish, with the French even, because they're here too, and negotiate our way out of this and decide to make some tough decisions that we, the people, will rally around and make sure that we take back our country.
You kind of answered my next question in part, but I'm still going to put it to you anyhow. How does the U.I.C intend, if they should become the leading party of the country, how do you intend to deal with the whole debt thing that Jamaica is pressured and burdened with right now? Because the debt is the problem. That's Jamaica owes too much money for the country to even do any better right now. So how will the U.I.C handle that if you get in power?
So first of all, the debt is not the problem. The problem is those who created the debt, and we don't have anything to show for it. So when you, for example, unstoppable, I don't know your personal situation, but maybe you, and if you're married, you and your wife sat down and decided you want to buy a particular house, and you borrowed money, and yes, now you have a big debt, a big mortgage, but you have a big house, a lovely house that you're happy with and you're enjoying. The Jamaican people are on the not so nice end of the stick, in that we have such a mortgage, but we don't have such a house to show for it. So the debt is for example, many countries have huge debt. Like Singapore, for example, have a lot of debt, but they also have a very, very strong asset side to their balance sheet, meaning the debt is reflective in highly productive assets that are producing a high quality of life for the people of Singapore. And so you can see the relationship, the correlation between the debt and assets. Jamaica, we have high debts and no corollary assets to show for it, no productive assets to show for it. How will we, the U.I.C, deal with this? Our plan is to liberate the Jamaican people and quickly build up the productive assets. How do we do that? You do that by stop strangling the small business and micro business sectors. Stop strangling them in the way that the government is now doing. Completely liberate the sectors, so now we can have our people maximizing their potential in terms of production and earning. We have to grow our way out of the debt crisis that we're in, and we have to grow our way from the bottom up out of that debt crisis. So we have to build the grassroots economy. So here are a few things we're going to do in that. First of all, we're going to make it the cost of compliance with taxes and the cost of taxes lower for the Jamaican people. This is going to allow them to have the capital, access to capital by, we're gonna change the banking system so that you now have free flow of capital to the grassroots level, cheaper capital, more available capital, and greater access to banking facilities, greater competition in the banking space for them, so that now you can have the small man having the privileges that now are only reserved for the big man in the market space. That is going to cause the economy to grow in leaps and bounds. Our program of moving into securing water, energy, and food is going to spur massive growth in terms of water harvesting technology and water export. It's going to spur massive growth in terms of expanding our energy capacity through geothermal, through solar, which is going to bring down the cost of manufacturing in Jamaica. We're going to have massive growth by shifting from, instead of building homes on our prime agricultural lands, we now spin that into organic farming, borrowing information and technology that's been used so successfully in the Netherlands right here in Jamaica, so we can make Jamaica the organic food capital of the world. All of these things that we're going to do are going to cause us to be able to service our debts effectively. I'm also going to renegotiate some of the debts. Some of the debts are ridiculous. For example, the debts we entered into in the 1990s under the P.J. Patterson administration, where they really took us to lunch on the high interest rate policies. We're going to go back to those people who knowingly gouged the Jamaican people by virtue of a very a government that really did not have the interest of the people at heart. We're going to go back to them and strongly renegotiate those loans. I know they're hearing me right now, and I know they're going to be very concerned, but we're going to go back and we're going to seriously renegotiate those loans. We're going to get a moratorium. We're going to lengthen the payback period. We're going to get a haircut. We're going to cut down the amount of the principal balance. And I promise you that the Jamaican people are going to, for the first time, you're going to have a true financial manager in charge of our economy who is going to make sure we get the right deals in renegotiating our loans, the right deals in getting back our highways, the right deals in divesting our tourism product to become community-based as opposed to all-inclusive based, the right deal in getting our agricultural sector to be productive again and exporting at levels never seen before in Jamaica. So we're going to turn this around. It's not going to be easy. Don't get me wrong. But what is most important is that the principles that we're going to employ and the new system we're going to implement will make sure that Jamaica will never again return to what it is now.
Thank you, sir. Very well said. All right, Marvin, come in, my brother. What's your take now? Add your say to everything that was discussed. Go ahead. And then
Bridget,
after you, I'm gonna open the phone line so
that's
persons can
that's
ask their questions.
that's a lot of things to come in for, you know. A lot of time you have a president to talk, you know. Man can't even drinking water in a piece. But Jamaica, listen, you've heard it from the mastermind. Um, Most of you probably thought that our leader was an idiot and don't know what I'm doing. I've heard the talks from persons who have never met Joseph Patterson, who don't have a clue about the independent. Even last night, in all that, what did say? New party. I wish party that. No new party can't win in Jamaica. And this is it is pretty sad. I remember Saturday when we were in the communities of Portmore that we went on the back road. I mean, if you big up everybody over back road, because usually when we think about back road, we think about the prostitutes around there. Who most of those women who are in prostitution, it's because the system for the number of years have failed our Jamaican women. And the only thing they could resort to is to selling them bodies. And I want you to understand, we're not stereotyping and we just want them to understand. So listen, we know why most of you are there, and we are working assiduously in becoming the next government to give you an affordable life where you can stop what is it you never wanted to do in the first place. You can regain your as much of your dignity as possible, and this is what we are going to do. Now, when Mr. Patterson was talking about the same agriculture sector, Jamaica needs to understand one of the worst things we could ever do is to have so much countries on the outside importing onion and scallion and thyme and Irish, and I could go on and on. Products that every single Jamaican use in their homes, right? We could have been exported because a lot of people across the world, yeah, the diaspora of Jamaica, the Jamaicans everywhere want Jamaican food. But I have been in the US. You can't buy Jamaican food enough. When you go into the stores, as a matter of fact, banana, you have to weigh the banana. Weigh. And for those who are in the US, who can't tell me now, I don't know the present cost, but I can tell you that it's expensive to get some Jamaican produce. And it is sad to know that it is so scarce overseas, knowing that we have the lands, we have the people, and all we need is just proper governance, and the country lacks it. And for 78 years, we have been putting in the same two people them. These people have been promising the Jamaican people water and road. Right now, over in Stetton, in Trelawney, over in the community of Stetton, and I'm going to do a personal story of it. Oh, from August, if not longer, from August of 2021, the roadways have broken away enough that it is single lane traffic, and the government of Jamaica them dump up one load of mal on a busy street. But I understand that the community of Stetton, I stand corrected if I'm wrong, but I understand the community is predominantly PNP, yes, and I don't know if it is a sabotage, but we know that the governments, previous and present, have been the kind of people who they look out for the people from their party and that community. They are never for the entire Jamaican community. So I can guarantee everybody that when we become government, we don't care if a Labour right live around there, so or if a PNP around there. So we are for the betterment of the Jamaican people, which means that we're going to work assiduously in ensuring that every single need for every single Jamaican is met. And some of the problems that I have been having is that when you approach some people about U.I.C, they're gonna tell you that Iwola Uno are the same thing. All of you politicians are the same thing. That is not true. Jamaican people have only seen the People's National Party and the Jamaica Labour Party. We've only been exposed to two political parties, and it's a flip-flop situation. Right now, Kern Spencer, the People's National Party, is thinking about having Kern Spence. I don't even know if the light bulb scandal, I don't even know if that thing, if they finalize that in a court yet. There are so many politicians right now who have committed so much crime. And it is sad to know that the government of Jamaica, both opposition and the leading government, they still find virtue. They find use cases for these criminals. And only a criminal could find use case for another criminal. It is time for the Jamaican people to realize that we can do better. We produce lawyers and doctors and people of the highest of professions every single year from our universities. And this is why the country has the kind of brain drain that it has. All of our nurses that are working on getting their degrees can't wait to finish their degrees to do what? To work in the Jamaican hospital? No, to go overseas, because they get better pay, better life, and some of them can retire long before the age of retirement because they're living a life that is wealthy for the job that they put in. Now, we want to make sure that the Jamaican nurses who are in school presently, those who are thinking of being a policeman or a soldier, with a very few, because a lot of them have lost trust in the police force and stuff. But we're going to fix that. We're no longer, as Mr. Patterson, we're no longer going to have a police force. We're going to have a police service. I remember as a little boy when I grew up, me didn't want to be a police because, and I had respect for doctors, I had respect for lawyers and and teachers. No, you don't want these professions anymore. Why? Because the government, past and present, have failed the better part of our Jamaican workforce. They failed them miserably. There's a lot of our nurses and doctors and lawyers and other professionals would have left Jamaica if they don't, not to mention the amount of country where them sell out. There's so many things. The very land itself want to left Jamaica. The people want to left the very land itself. And when I say this, I mean I don't mean to be facetious, but the truth is we have sold every single thing about this country. If Dunn's River Falls could have been taken up and put on an airplane, we would have had nothing but an empty land there, sir. And I could call so many other attraction sites that we have across the country. Most of our beaches, if we could have taken up most of our beach, it would have left here already because we sold every god thing. And there are Jamaicans who believe that Jesus is going to come out of the skies and come and fix this problem tomorrow, right? The Christians who are here, Jamaica full of a whole heap of Christians, and some of them say them now vote. A lot of them I come in contact with on the street, them tell us say them go vote for Jesus. The truth is when you go in the supermarket and the tax greet you, I'm sure you have to pay it. You have to pay it. Yes? And no matter how much you pray, God says what is on the coin, the face of the coin, and says Caesar. What is due to Caesar, give it to Caesar. Pay taxes. Be involved. Be involved in the democratic process of our country. Help make the decisions so that we can give you a better life. The Bible says, God says, in prefer above everything else, that we prosper and be in good health. Yeah? So in order for us to get a better Jamaica, we're asking the Jamaican people to step out for the United Independence Congress, where we can give you a better future. Give the third party the first. And as a matter of, I am talking and I am starting to get goose pimples because I can see Jamaicans through the length and breadth of Jamaica united upon a beat, tambourine, everything, because you would have seen an historic moment where Jamaicans would have finally made a decision to put the third political party with Joseph L. Patterson as its leader, one who God, I believe God has given him a gift to understand how money works and can make it work, and we can fix our country and our children don't have to die and start working before it's time to work. A lot of people right now, them care, them pity them 5-year-old, and then you see them in the marketplace, them help to sell the cabbage and the banana. They are right now in the community of Halsall, Top Halsall, which were me there. There are a lot of students who are not going to school because what? When the shutdown came, them not have no tablet, them not have no internet access. And then parents I get minimum wage. What is minimum wage in Jamaica? $7,000? $7,000 when some of them have to pay a fare to go the work for them go. And then by the time they get lunch, they are already in debt before the payday come. $7,000 is an injustice to the Jamaican people. And every person in Jamaica who is getting minimum wage, who is in the hearing of my voice, I want to assure you that Joseph L. Patterson that you're looking at showed me something that I couldn't believe, where he is going to do away with minimum wage. Yes, no more minimum wage. We're going to have a system as a maximum wage. Because too often we've had the Jamaican people putting in so much effort into working, and you get nothing but a disgrace idea of a salary that you have to take home. And most Jamaican families is comprised of 3 or more kids. What can a Jamaican family do with $7,000? As a matter of fact, one of the worst thing again is that the internet bill is more than what you get paid. Your light bill is more than what you get paid. The water bill is more than what you get paid. And the government of Jamaica, them have wage freeze. How can you freeze wage like that and still find 320 million Jamaican dollars to give to the DPP if you go make office? You find 120 million to go build courthouse in Maypen. You find $3 billion to go make parliament. You find 100 million, or how much million, to go build up the waterfront downtown Kingston. And you take the Jamaican money, the taxes, you give us, we're not on a road. We're not on a road. And they come up with this thing where the outskirts of Jamaica the tourist areas have beautiful paved roads, and then wait until Christmas when them come on and patch up a little road going on, and then give you one $3,000 to go clean the roadside. And a lot of you are comfortable with that little holiday walk. Now that Christmas is gone, I'm going to ask you something. Will you be cleaning the street side now? Are you waiting again? Can that $3,000 last you until Christmas again? This is how much your government thinks about you. This is how much they think about you. Now, we want every person that get up and know, say, yo, we love you know, we care about you know, and we want you to have a better life than being considered as squatters. Because in the eyes of government, we are nothing but squatters and ghetto youth until it is time for election. When it's no more squatters, we now become eligible electorates. Now you have value. It is time for it to stop. The United Independence. We don't vote for the blue people, them. Blue, color blue, and that we say color blue. Let us flood Jamaica with the blue. Give Joseph L. Patterson and the administration. Give me a chance, no man. Make we can fix the system. We can fix the system. We have every single thing that we need to fix. And as he said before, it's not gonna be easy, but it can be fixed. It can be fixed. I know, I am sure, I am assured of the fact that Andrew Holness cannot fix the present situation that Jamaica is in. I know, not even to mention Mark Golden, because he's the opposition, and we don't hear nothing about him. Him follow back Andrew, PP, clock, go everywhere I go. Listen, the people that I have heard from Diated PNP, they would have never put in Mark Golden. They're tired. And this is not to come and slander and slaughter the ministers of government. But the truth is, you have to call a spade what it is. And if you're not performing, then you just have to take your back seat. Uno, come out. This is our country. Me, when we go any foreign country, I am a second-class citizen in the United States. I'm a second-class citizen in Canada. I'm a second-class in wherever. But in Jamaica, I'm a first-class citizen. The people in the ghetto are first-class citizen. We want the ghetto people in Jamaica to know, say, you are more than just a flip-flop slippers with dirty like a nothing. You are more than walking with buckets of water from standpipe to your home. In a 2021, a time for you to be able to be put in a position where you can afford to pay internet bill, afford to pay light bill, afford to pay water bill. We're ready to take the country. Jamaica, we're ready. Andrew Holness, you need to step down. You need to resign. Come on, man. Do the big man thing and step down. You can't manage this. This one in a year league. The Governor General, you are also a disgrace. You need to step down straight up. Because the Governor General, Andrew Holness and his administration, they work for the Governor General. We know that the Governor General is the highest head. And the fact that he is not coming publicly to talk about the mess that the country is in, it simply means silent means consent. It simply means that you are upholding the garbage that this Prime Minister and his administration are doing. So we're asking you too. You need to step down, Mr. Allen. You need to go. But don't worry, under the United Independence Congress, don't worry yourself. Once the Jamaican people put the X right side of the shaker, and this is a feel thing. When you put the X side of the shaker, I promise you, the Governor General, you're Africa, Mr. Allen, you're Africa. Andrew, you're gonna become a regular citizen here, and we promise the Jamaican people we're gonna investigate and we're gonna prosecute them. For the first in the history of Jamaica, it won't be one politician that went to prison, which was Jack Smith. There are so many more. So many more. As a matter of fact, prison is too much of a good place for most of you because of what you have done to the Jamaican people. There's so many people who have been murdered. So many people whose families have gone into total. Brethren, listen, let me tell you something. A whole heap of family in Jamaica get messed up because of these government people, you know. A whole heap of people, the Jamaican government mess up, you know. And we here at the United Independence Congress, we're ready to take back the country. I am ready for the jubilation in the streets. It's time for the nighttime businesses to be reopened. We don't no limit on nothing. But go on to bed 12 o'clock, go on to bed 8 o'clock, go on to bed 11 o'clock. That doesn't make any sense. And it's obvious that you don't know how to lead. You don't know how to control this thing. You do not care for the Jamaican people. And we're asking you, now that you have built mansions off the backs of poor Jamaican people, come out of the thing, man, and give the U.I.C. We're ready, man. We're ready to take the country. I am right now in Old Harbour. Old Harbour, me come from. Straight. And I can tell everybody, say, listen, the people of Oldaba can vouch for me. So me a good boy. Me not have to go out there. I don't have to campaign in Oldaba. I don't have to campaign. And I will only campaign because I want the new community member, the persons who have taken up the new housing schemes, them need to meet me. But the old people, them know me and they know me a good boy. They know me a thief. Be ready. Be ready for represent. Okay, all right. So never talking about. Oh,
All right,
yeah.
Marvin.
Me
Good.
done. Me done. Me done.
All right. We
Yeah.
hear the passion. We hear the passion. We hear the passion. We hear the passion. All right. So we're going to open up the phone lines now, viewers, for you to call in. Now, please, when you call in and ask your question, please keep it short. Get right to the point, ask your question, and Mr. Patterson or Marvin will answer your question. You can address your question to either Mr. Patterson or to Marvin, and they will respond to you. All right. So 876-420-3368 is the number to call to ask your questions. Now, Mr. Patterson, this question I placed on the screen, I placed it here so that I'll ask you this very first question before I even take the first call. This person is saying, people graduating from college, all right, and there's no opportunities for them to find work in that field that they graduated from. How do you intend to fix that?
Yeah, the key thing is to make sure that we have a robust economy. And you can only have a robust economy when the government gets out of the way and empower our small, medium, micro sectors to actually create the jobs that we need. So the U.I.C is going to remove all of the artificial barriers to entry, all of the regulations which have been used by big business through our government to stifle small and medium enterprises. We're going to open up the markets in so many different areas that will allow graduates from university or engineers. You know, we have so many engineers graduating and can't find work. So we're going to make sure that they now have an opportunity right here in Jamaica to work. So it's all about good governance. It's all about ensuring that we have a liberated market, a liberated economy, where we have so many entrepreneurs. They can't even start their business because the government want to charge them $1 million before they start. So we have to stop that. We have to allow the entrepreneur to get off the ground. So we're going to stimulate entrepreneurship. We're going to support entrepreneurs. We're going to make sure that the credit market is working very well. The cost of accessing capital is reduced. The volume of capital available for productive enterprise is increased. And through that, you're now going to have many employment opportunities and many job creation opportunities being created in Jamaica.
All right, great. So we have a caller on the line. Caller, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Hi, everyone.
All right, what's your question?
I have two questions. The first one is, do we really have 100% independence from England? And the reason why for that question is it seems like we're constantly going back to England for answers for stuff. And it's like a lot of stuff that we need, like, for example, like our PV cord is in England. And it seems like we still look to England to declare a lot of stuff. My next question is for the healthcare in Jamaica. The healthcare, I think everybody, if not most people in Jamaica, can say they have one person who died due to the lack of care and negligence. What is your plan on fixing the healthcare in Jamaica? Those are my two questions.
All right, thank you, caller. He'll respond. You can jump back in the comment section and listen. All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, so first and foremost, yes, Jamaica is not truly independent. We don't have a constitution which is written by Jamaicans for Jamaicans to protect the interest of all Jamaicans. We don't have that. So the U.I.C is going to make sure that we become truly independent by having a Jamaican constitution that is written by us, written for us to protect the interest of all of us. So that's one. We must completely sever ties from England in terms of being in any way subservient to them. We can't have the Queen of England being our head of state. We don't need a Governor General, and we need to have our own local final appellate court. So we will not be appealing to the Privy Council anymore when the U.I.C takes over and changes Jamaica into a non-partisan constitutional republic. On the issue of I think you were asked, what was the other part of the question again?
She had came off the line. I think she was asking about healthcare.
Oh, healthcare, right. And she noted that, you know, most persons have at least one person who has died in Jamaica because of a bad healthcare system. The U.I.C is fully cognizant of this, and you may not be aware, but the primary problem in Jamaica's healthcare system is that it is run by our government. Everything the government touches fails. You'll notice that every sector it touches, every industry it touches. Even just recently, you saw where, you know, they can't account for monies at the Ministry of Education. The same government that is going to tax you, that is going to fine you, that is going to charge you penalties or even lock you up for failing to do what they say you should do, they can't even manage their own finances and be able to give us proper accountability. Now, when you have a healthcare system where the government is both the operator and the regulator, you have a serious problem. The U.I.C is going to fix this by separating the two. We're going to make sure we have a fully and truly public healthcare system where the government is no longer the operator, but truly the regulator who monitors to ensure the quality of care is there and to ensure that there's no force or fraud in the system. And then on top of that, we're going to now fund the poor. So we'll focus on the funding aspect of the healthcare system, funding those who can't afford to pay for the quality of care that they need, while ensuring that we have one high level standard of care that is accessible by both the rich and the poor. The rich would pay full price, and the middle class would pay, for want of a better word, half price, and the poor would pay zero. As we move to upgrade the entire economy, to lift up the capacity of the poor so we have less poor and more affluent Jamaicans. We want to get to this case where I like to mention this, you know, unstoppable. Singapore, they're at the place where they have no, their citizens don't do the menial work anymore. They have to import people in for that. I want to get Jamaica to that level where we lift our people up so we have less and less and less and less poor people. And the way to do that is through education, healthcare, and housing solution. If we fix those problems for the poor, we can move people quickly up the upward mobility level and start having a higher quality country. And that includes having a higher quality healthcare system.
Great. All right. Thank you. We have another caller on the line. Caller, good evening.
Good evening, Unstoppable.
Blessings.
And to my next Prime Minister and the other gentleman, blessed love.
Respect.
Yes, what I want to ask, what are you going to do to protect the returning resident? Because I'm here abroad now and would like to come home, maybe to start my own little business, but the condition it is going now, I wouldn't even look there now unless U.I.C is in power, which I know they would take power very soon.
All right. So your question is, what would the U.I.C do to protect returning residents? Correct? All right.
Yes.
Thanks, my brother. Let me allow Mr. Patterson to address that. You can continue watching. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. The phone number to call in is 876-420-3368. You can call in to ask your questions to Mr. Patterson or to Marvin directly. And listen, whichever parish you're from, each parish can, if you're in one of the 14 parishes of Jamaica, you can call in and ask a question pertaining to your parish. Like, what will Mr. Patterson do specifically for your parish? If something is happening that you need addressed in your parish, you can call in and ask specific questions. All right, 876-420-3368. The number is also pinned right there. All right, Mr. Patterson, you can answer his question right there.
The rights and freedoms, which includes the life, liberty, and property of all Jamaicans, including returning residents. But we have a special program in mind for returning residents that includes a number of things. One, we want to make sure that all returning residents return to Jamaica duty-free. So you pay no duty at all on bringing back your assets to Jamaica. We also want to make sure that we start now in the new system that we're going to design to give all Jamaicans living overseas the right to vote remotely in Jamaica's election, because we believe in looking at Jamaica as a whole, not just those who live here, but those who are connected. As you know, Jamaicans overseas contribute 33% of the local economy by way of remittances. And so they're a very vital, important part of our economy, a part of our society that we need to respect and care for. In terms of your personal security, we need to ensure that returning residents are properly briefed and educated on what they're coming back to, where they're going, and that we have a connection between returning residents and the police to provide them with the kind of security infrastructure that they need on returning home. Nothing beats, however, having a proper briefing so you understand the Jamaica you're returning to, the conditions where you're moving to, whichever area of the country you're going, and having that intel and then having the connection with the appropriate persons within the police services will help you to be safe upon returning to Jamaica. But the best security for returning residents is a Jamaica that secures all Jamaicans, regardless of whether you're returning or somebody who have never left Jamaica.
All right, great response. All right, we have another caller. Caller, good evening. You're live. Go right ahead with your question.
Good evening, Mr. Patterson.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Patterson. My name is Melton Matters, and my question is this. What are you going to do about the crime system in Jamaica and illegal firearm that come into Jamaica?
All right, thank you for your question. You can continue watching. He'll respond to you. All right.
I'm glad the gentleman mentioned the. I'm glad. I, I'm glad the gentleman mentioned the illegal firearms. The U.I.C understands this, and the government doesn't. They've now begun to talk about it because we have mentioned it. But securing our borders is the most important part of securing our citizens. You cannot have guns and ammunition flowing freely across the border into the country. If we, and the U.I.C is going to make sure that we designate this role to the military of Jamaica, so they will take over the Coast Guard and they will control the border control of our country and monitor that. So the army will be very busy. Rather than having them on the streets of Jamaica looking intimidating to citizens, they're going to be making sure our borders are fully secure. If we stop the guns and ammunition from coming in the first place, we reduce the amount of legal firearms and ammunition on the island. But on top of that, the U.I.C is going to take a top-down approach to crime. So we're going to focus on the kingpins in the crime. So those in parliament and those in the boardroom, investigating them, seeing the money trail, and then catching them and sending them to prison. Once we get after the big fishes that are involved in the crime system, we'll be able to then control those at the bottom and eliminate the problem, at least, to make sure we have a manageable level and people can actually sleep with their windows and doors open for a change.
Great. We have another caller on the line. Caller, you're live. Go right ahead with your question.
How are you doing?
All is well, brother.
Good. Well, I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia. Like the gentleman, I too want to return back to my country at some point, and definitely the crime is one of the major issue that is, putting a damp in that becoming a reality, because of course, nobody want to die. Right? But I have a few questions, Mr. Patterson. I really like the eloquence. I really like the knowledge and everything else. I like everything that is being said. The first question I want to ask you: are you related to the former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson? I hope not. Right? And the second thing is, let me hear about a few specific as it relates to fixing Jamaica crime problem.
Oh, I am muted.
Sorry, Mr. P, you're muted. Go ahead.
No problem. To your first question, I am not aware that I am related to the Prime Minister, except that we obviously share the same slave master to end up with the name. On the question of some crime specifics, let me be very specific. We strongly believe that Jamaica's crime problem starts and resides at the top. Of course, it has become cultural to some extent now because of the long-term effects of 77 years of these two parties. But here's how you're going to help to fix the crime problem. If we elect, or when we elect a U.I.C government, that is the first major strike against the crime problem. You know why? Because you would have removed those who created the problems and those who are still facilitating the problems because of their connection with the criminal underworld. You know that for the most part, Jamaica's political system has been built on crime and violence. And so we cannot expect those who created the problem and those who are connected to the problem to be the ones to solve the problem. So elect the U.I.C so we can sever the tie between politics and crime, and then watch us now as we implement the policies we talk about, which begins with a top-down approach, investigating forensically and otherwise those who have held senior positions in government and in the private sector. Both of them is important, as well as in the police force, because that's the triangle that has been able to protect and incubate and support the criminal enterprise in Jamaica.
Great. Thank you for your response, Mr. P. All right, Carla, you are live. What's your question?
Hi, Unstoppable and the guest. I hope you're all well. So I am very in support of the U.I.C. I know a gentleman just called in and talked about how he lived abroad. So am I. And, just on top of like just a returning citizen, you've answered that question. I just want to know, obviously, this is the new venture for Jamaicans, and they're not used to having like a third party that's this strong in trying to fight that fight to bring a change to Jamaica. I'm sure a lot of Jamaican are very interested in U.I.C as well. And I just want to know, what are the plans that you have to protect Jamaicans who are going to be retaliated against that's supporting the U.I.C?
All right. Thank you for your question, Carla. I appreciate it. You can listen to his response on watching the live. All right.
Thanks.
All right, Mr. P.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And it is a fact that those of us who have put ourselves forward to represent the U.I.C, by putting ourselves forward, we've put ourselves on the line, and we will become and have become targets. I'm probably the first casualty in terms of having been sent to jail, but our members are resolute. We know that we don't have fully the resources that we need, but we're looking forward to you in the diaspora in particular, and to us. And listen, even us here at home in Jamaica, let me not say that, all of us need to make sure we're contributing. So by donating to us, you're giving us the means to buy protection. Okay. So we, in many of our walks for liberty that we've had, we have hired private security. So we have persons who are all over the place, some who are armed and some who are unarmed, and they're monitoring and protecting all of us. We have a very caring National Executive Council. They believe they need to provide me security 24/7, and they work hard to do that with our very limited means to make sure I'm protected. But we want to make sure we can protect all of our candidates. And so we're asking you, please, to step up and donate to our fund so that we can protect our candidates and provide for candidates when they meet in any form of difficulties. For example, our director of recruitment and operation, Marlon Millis, on one of his jobs where he's working to help us mobilize our people. I mean, he was just pulling out of an area and somebody just took off the front of his vehicle. that means he has to find money. He was wrong because he was pulling out and he looked one way, and by the time he looked the other way, they came out. But because of the position, he's in the wrong. But that's very costly. But he was doing that in the line of duty, and we have to be able to help with all of those expenses. So please, everyone, please step up at home or abroad. Let's come together, join hands, and make this happen for Jamaica.
All right, caller, you are live. Good evening. What's your question?
Yeah, man. It's not a question still. It's a suggestion. My thing is, I used to work with Jamaica Information Service. And here I am living in Texas also. And I have talks with family members and friends in Jamaica. And a lot of them, when I talk to them about this party, a lot of them is not aware of it. They don't know about it. I know you're having problems with the media. They don't want Jamaica to know about you. So I know you're fighting very hard to cover the whole complete island so people can know who's the U.I.C. My suggestion is, because I've seen it happen before JIS became executive agency, we used to go around and do public address, which is something works. But if you have your guys going around to let the public know about the party, why don't you get like a car or something, steal on the top of a car and drive around and advertise the U.I.C. I mean, you can stop in a crowd and you can talk to people, but whosoever you don't get the chance to talk to who's on the street, people standing in their yard or somewhere around could hear the sound going through. You know what I'm saying? And I know it will work because I've seen that work before. Yeah, that's just my suggestion.
All right,
All
caller,
right.
thank you.
All right.
Mr. P will respond. You can listen to what he has to say by watching the stream. All right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Cool.
that's a wonderful, wonderful suggestion, and one that we are doing. We have been traveling around the country. We've been doing the One Jamaica tour. We have gone now to all the parishes except for St. Thomas. So our next stop is going to be St. Thomas. But to keep that momentum up, again, it comes back to the funding issue. For example, to have a town crier do what you've just said, which is to go around and play something about the U.I.C. You're talking about some serious dollars. One town crier, I believe, charged $6,000 an hour. Another one charged $11,000 an hour, and so on. So they're different prices. But again, these all cost money. You also need to remember that the U.I.C. is a party whereby none of us are full time. So while, for example, taxpayers are paying the prime minister to be full time, going around the country at the expense of taxpayers just drawing money from our bank account, and spending it at will to do any number of trips he wants, anywhere he wants to go. And the same for the opposition leader. He has taxpayers' money, so he can travel to everywhere in the country and just expense it to we the people. We in the U.I.C. have no taxpayers' money. So the only dollar we can spend is the one that you give to us. And when we go out, all of us in the U.I.C., when we go out, we're skipping work. So we're skipping work to go out. So I want us to always bear this in mind. And so what we have to do now, and we're working at it very, very hard, is to build our income so that we can actually be able to spend more time on the road and send out more town criers into the communities.
Thank you for that response, sir. We have another call on the line. Caller, good evening. What's your question?
Hello?
Yes, caller, you're live.
Yeah, I'm calling from Canada, and I would want to find out something from Mr. Patterson. The prison system, how can he fix the prison system when he gets into power? Because I see a lot of video going around with prisoner in jailhouse cooking, they having party, them have watching flat screen. They have gas stove in prison. Like, how can he fix those things? Because that is the thing that even make the youth them in Jamaica so violate, because them see all these things and them know so like prison system is nice. So them they don't have the fear. So I would like to know how can he fix those prison system that I see down there going on.
All right, Carla, thank you for your question. You could continue watching the stream. All right, go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a really really interesting situation we're seeing where prisoners have all these latitude. Well, the UIC is going to take away that, but there's a balance. When I was in jail the other day, I came face to face with the harsh reality of prison life in terms of the unsanitary condition and so on inside. But outside of that, we need to bring our prisons on the it needs to become a place of reform where we reform individuals. So that includes one, we have to treat prisoners humanely. And at the same time, we have to put them to work. And at the same time, we have to make sure they understand this is punishment. So the U.I.C is going to turn our prison system into something that truly reforms the inmate and also have the inmate pay back society for his time in prison, pay back society for the cost you have placed upon on society. So we're going to make our prisoners become productive persons behind bars and rehabilitate them so that when they come back to society, they have a skill, they have competences which are useful and valuable, and we're going to make sure that people realize that prison is not a place you want to go, but at the same time it's a place that is going to treat persons humanely and help them to bring out the best in their character at the same time.
All right, so we're going to take this last caller and then we're going to wrap it up. Caller, good night. You're live.
How you doing, sir? How you doing, Unstoppable?
I'm good,
Mr.
thank you.
Patterson, how are you? I'm a young, Jamaican descent of America. I was born in America, but my parents are Jamaican, and I live in Washington, D.C. And I wanted to ask you something. Like, most of my family live in the rural part of St. Mary, the rural parts of the place where not everybody goes there. People don't really see it. People don't go there to go watch things. Like in the rural parts of Jamaica, where the real people are, as I should say. What can we do to connect, or what will you do that I should say can connect, you know, differently than what the last two parties are doing? What would this party do to make things like really good for those people who live in those types of areas that can't get water, that can't get certain goods? What can we change? Well, what will you change to make that better for them? Because they have a say too. And I travel back and forth to Jamaica, and it's so hard sometimes to see people having to travel so far to get water. In 2022, in 2021, people still have to carry water on their head. So, what can we do to change that fact? What will you do? Because I believe in you, Mr. Pats. You're the first person I really truly believe can change this country. I love Jamaica so much. And I really believe that you can bring that change that all of us really want to see Jamaica. Because it is so sad to see what they're doing, how long this thing is taking. From 1962, this has been going on, and there's no change. The same thing from my grandparents come all the way down to us now. It's the same thing. And I believe that with with the U.I.C can do so much. I truly believe that. And I'm saying that from all the way overseas. I truly believe the U.I.C can do so much, but it starts with the people in the country, getting them used to certain things, having people get access to water, food. What can you do? What is your plan to really change that diaspora that that really has been the same since the 60s?
All right, caller, thank you for your question. You can listen to his response by watching the live. All right.
All right, thank you, sir.
Good. All right, Mr. P.
Yeah. So it's actually from 1944 that these two parties have been in power and been running the country. So 77 going on 78 years they have been at it. And yes, they have really mistreated us. So how are we going to deal with this? The UIC, our approach to governance is to see all of Jamaica as equal. So we're not an uptown party or a Kingston or whatever. We want all of Jamaica to be treated equally, one Jamaica. So you're talking about a road network throughout the entire length and breadth of the island that is well done, following proper civil engineering. You're talking about a police service embedded across the country to protect the people. You're talking about a water network system where we put in water harvesting that links all the communities on a grid, a network that ensures proper water volume and pressure throughout the length and breadth of Jamaica up to your home. You're talking about an electrical system where you have energy properly distributed across the country, so you have proper energy in the rural areas. In fact, they're no longer rural areas, right? We're not going to operate Jamaica on a rural, non-rural. We're going to build up the entire country. You might have seen the U.I.C plan before, that our goal is to make all of Jamaica a tourist destination. And in what we mean by that is not so much for the tourists, We're talking about making all of Jamaica look, smell, and feel good right across the board, good enough for tourists, and more importantly, good enough for Jamaicans. And once we create such a Jamaica, you're going to have an influx of people, an upsurge in our economy from tourism and all the other factors we have spoken about. You're talking about employment in water, employment in energy, employment in food production, the massive export that we're doing. And this is what you need, because we can't build Jamaica in abstract. So you can't create a better Jamaica without a better economy. So you have to have a strong economy to support the better Jamaica. And for that strong economy to happen, you have to have somebody and a government and a system that is about grassroots economic development, as opposed to a government and a system which is about gatekeepers and protecting the interest of a few at the expense of the vast majority.
Thank you for that response. Last question, Mr. Patterson, and this one is from me before we wrap up, right? Your first 100 days in office, what do you intend to do?
Okay, so my first 100 days in office will be focused on getting some key things done. First and foremost, for the U.I.C as a movement, as a party, is to ensure that by the end of the first year, right? Now there are 365 days in a year, but by the end of the first year, we're going to have a referendum where the Jamaican people, for the first time in the history of the nation, will vote for a new constitution that makes Jamaica a truly free and independent republic. That's number one. And that's going to happen by the end of the 365. In order for that to happen, the first 100 days has to be focused on some critical areas. Number one, we have to make sure that we are revamping the police service immediately to make sure the Jamaican people are safe. We have to remove the restrictive laws and covenants that are debilitating our small and micro enterprises, so they can start to have access to the economy fully, as soon as possible within the first 100 days. And number three, we have to galvanize the best and brightest minds in constitutional law and systems design to make sure we can unveil the first referendum by the end of the first year of my administration.
Mr. Patterson, has the U.I.C been acknowledged or recognized by the present party, the JLP? Because it would seem as if they don't see the U.I.C to be respected enough by them. Do you think that you have been acknowledged or recognized by the JLP or even the PNP?
Well, it's strategy, right? I mean, the goal of the two major parties is to ensure as much as possible that the U.I.C remains obscure and unknown. They don't want us to be known, and that's logical, right? From the way politics is played, they want to make, so they're not going to refer to the U.I.C. So we have had moments where members of the one of the parties would mention the U.I.C. You might recall recently last year when one member of one of the parties said Jamaica needs the U.I.C. when they saw what was going on and how depressed things were. that person wrote a Facebook post and said Jamaica really need the U.I.C. when they saw how things were going. But outside of that, they have no intentions of acknowledging us, and I don't really care whether they do or not. The only people I care about acknowledging us is the people of Jamaica. When the people of Jamaica hear about us, everybody who hear about us, let's put it this way: for every 10 persons that hear about the U.I.C., 9 is in support of the U.I.C. And so, in due course, when all 2.9 million or 3 million hears about the U.I.C., and the 3 to 4 million of us living outside of Jamaica hears about the U.I.C. and sees our policy and see what we're about, and you have that overwhelming support that comes, that is what matters to me, and that's what matters to the U.I.C. We don't care what the PNP or JLP thinks, but we do care what the people of Jamaica thinks.
We have many persons overseas that wants to support the U.I.C., but they don't know how. How is it that persons overseas? Because I've even had the question: how can I vote from the UK or Canada or wherever I am? How can I vote for the U.I.C.? How do you respond to that question?
Good question. Now, you have to realize there are a number of ways you can vote and a number of ways you can support the U.I.C. So here is the simple academic way, which is in Jamaica's electoral process, you have to be on the voters list and you have to show up physically in Jamaica and vote at election, which is an impediment for many people in the diaspora. You may not find the time to come here to even register to vote, because to register to vote, you have to come, you have to go to the electoral office, say you want to register, tell them what your address is here in Jamaica. They have to come to your house within 2 weeks, find you there and verify that you're really dead. And then that's how you're now on the voters list to vote. And then when the Prime Minister call election whenever he feels like it, because we don't have fixed election date, which he had promised, by the way, then you have to find airfare and come down and make yourself available now to vote. Now, that is the extraneous way. But every dollar that you donate to the U.I.C., that is a vote. Every time you contribute to the U.I.C., you are voting for the U.I.C. because what you're doing, you're helping a candidate to reach. Like recently, a person wrote in and said, how can I want to fund a candidate in Hanover? And every $50 or $200 or $3 that person gives to that candidate's campaign in Hanover, they are voting U.I.C. So right now, everybody can vote U.I.C. today. You can go on our website at uicjamaica.com and vote today by donating $10 or $25 or $200 or $1,000 or $1,000,000, whatever you can donate. You're voting U.I.C. every time you donate, because you are giving us the capacity to reach voters in Jamaica and to bring them out on election day, to educate them now between now and election day, and get them properly primed and ready to vote for change. So if you sitting where you are in the UK or America or Canada, you can influence 100 Jamaicans, 1,000 Jamaicans to go out and vote from where you are. I have been into communities. I'm driving through. The other day we stopped in one and the fella said, oh, are you, my brother, talk about, him stay away Canada, and tell me about the U.I.C. Him know more about the U.I.C. than me. And him tell me that the U.I.C. we're supposed to support. So that's how you in diaspora can influence. Talk to your family and friends here. Let them know. Send them the videos from U.I.C, Liberty TV and Unstoppable and Jamaican Carlos and Wayne Lonesome. Send them the video. Say, watch this. Send them our post. Put it on your WhatsApp and send them the picture. Send them the stuff and say, look, man, you now have a choice. You have an option now. You have the U.I.C. So tell your family and your friends, your brothers and your sisters, your neighbors, your cousin, your uncle, right here in Jamaica, that they should vote. And say the same thing now to your friends and families that are there with you overseas. Say, listen, I have given $50. You give $50 too. And if everybody come together, this is our moment to know. If we come together, yes, the GLP and PNP have the big money from the private sector. They have the big money from their foreign masters that they're getting. But if we, the people, come together, if you look at the U.I.C sign, look at the sign. I have a button right here. See this button? Look at the sign. You see it's the handshake coming together. two hands coming together. It's us. It's we coming together. We, the poor people, the suffering people, those who come up from the one bedroom, the one house, the chimney pot, the piece of bread and lime leaf tea to go to school. We going to take back Jamaica. We are going to say enough is enough, and we're not going to sit down and allow these two colonial parties to trick us one more time. We're running out of time now. I'm going to call the election soon for local government, and then we're going to have general election after that. And I believe we're going to have early general elections. You know why we're going to have early? Because the pressure is going to mount. So now is the time. Vote U.I.C. now with your 10, 20, 30, 40, 500, $1,000. Vote now by donating now. Your donation today is a vote for the U.I.C. tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. Now, last question. A lot of persons has been calling for the present prime minister to step down. I've seen it on social media where many persons, just saying, step down, it's time for you to resign. What's your take on that?
I absolutely agree. The prime minister has no moral authority, no credibility, and has no legs to stand on. He has failed the Jamaican people at every turn on every issue. Think about it, This gentleman told the Jamaican people that if you vote for me, I am going to give you 5% economic growth in 4 years in office. He failed dismally, even with billions of dollars in Chinese loans that he has taken on while selling out our interest, and he has failed to do that. He told the Jamaican people that he's going to allow them, he's going to cause them to be able to sleep with their windows and doors open. And under his watch, spending billions more than any other administration before him. He has spent far more money on states of emergencies and zones of operations where he has incarcerated many of our young people just because they're poor, just because they live in a poor neighborhood. He has scraped them up, cost them their jobs, connected them with other criminals, and at the same time having spent billions of dollars on crime. No doubt some of that money went in the wrong direction, of course, but spending billions nonetheless and locking up a lot of our young men, locking down poor communities, locking down the shops and locking down their operations in the name of saving us from crime. And all that has happened is that crime has gone up. You couldn't fail in a more remarkable fashion than this prime minister. And then in his management of the pandemic crisis, his management of it has been underwhelming. It has left the Jamaican economy in disarray. It has pushed up the crime statistics, and it has put the Jamaican people in a position whereby it is clear to them that he was more of a pharmaceutical salesman than somebody who cared about the health and well-being of the nation.
Thank you. All right, Marvin, let's wrap up, Marvin, but I'm going to give you 1 minute, 1 minute exactly to make your final speech. All right? 1
Brethren,
minute exactly to make your final speech.
I think you Marvin 1 minute, but that's fine.
Go on, brother.
Well, firstly, I just want to say thanks for having us on your program, Unstoppable. You are with this great movement, and we here at the United Independence Congress thank you a lot. We also thank the Wayne Lonesomes, the Jamaica Carlos, and all the other YouTubers that are getting our stories out there. To the Jamaican people right across the length and breadth of Jamaica and throughout the diaspora, we want to thank you so much for tuning in. And just like our president said, we're asking you to just donate and make the thing work. You understand? We ask when the people in the community show some love, because at times we take back the country. We come with love. We don't come with because you're JLP and because you're PMP. We don't come with the badness. We don't depend that. We come with one love. And this is the sign wherever we go, one Jamaica. And you can help us spread the love. Blue is the color, one finger mean one Jamaica. To all the Uniteds who are watching, enough love, big up. I think we represented you well. Our president again, never fail. The man is the man behind the mission. We love Jamaica. We want back with country, and it's up to you. I think that's a 1 minute. Thanks.
All right, blessings. All right,
Yes.
so Mr. Patterson, your final statements before we wrap up, sir.
Sure, absolutely. My fellow Jamaicans, wherever you are around the world tonight, Jamaica needs you. My fellow
Yes.
Jamaicans here at home, your country is begging, is crying out. You, together with me and all of us who are suffering from the challenges we're faced here, we're crying out for change. We want something better. The United Independence Congress of Jamaica is offering you that opportunity. We're doing everything we can to stand up for you. We stood up for you on September 22nd when we marched against the government's what you call it now, their DRMA, where they sought to take away our rights and cause us not to have freedom of speech or freedom of movement or freedom of choice. We stood for you then, and we're standing for you now, even as the government once again is taking steps to find new and tricky ways to undermine your freedom, such as the digital currency they're bringing in and the needs that they have pushed through against your will. Let us join hands. Let us come together as one Jamaica. And I'm so pleased that people are coming from the two sides, and people who have been independent and those who have had no connection with politics at all are coming together. I want to thank my friends in the Rastafarian community, our friends in the Maroon community, our friends in the Christian community, our friends in the both vaccinated and unvaccinated community, all of you who are coming together now to stand up for justice, stand up for rights, stand up for freedom, and stand up for one Jamaica. Thank you, and I look forward to serving you as the next government when you elect the United Independence Congress to rescue Jamaica from colonialism and from corruption.
Thank you, sir. And thank you both for joining me on this discussion this evening. Mr. Patterson, before you leave, I'm not aware if you had seen the conversation I had with Senator Damian Crawford a few months back. Had you seen that conversation?
No, I didn't.
Several persons in the comment section requested that I had both yourself and Mr. Crawford on a live conversation as well. And Mr. Crawford agreed. So it's now up to you to agree to have a discussion just like this one with Mr. Crawford on panel. Is that something you're willing to do, sir?
Well, I will have to consult with our communication staff on the matter. But I tell you this, I want to tell you, this is really important. Damian Crawford, as you know, I've a number of times big up the U.I.C. and I appreciate him for that. But the truth is, what Jamaica needs to hear now is a conversation between myself, Andrew Holness, and Mark Golden. I think you need to invite both of those gentlemen on your program and tell them I am willing any day of the week, any day of the year to have a discussion with them about the future of Jamaica, because they are the elected representatives of their respective parties. And as the president and leader of the U.I.C., I look forward to us having a public discussion about the future of Jamaica and where they have taken it for 77 years and where we, the U.I.C., will take it after the people give us that commission.
With that said, Mr. Patterson, have you ever reached out to the Prime Minister and tried to set up a discussion, a meeting with him? Have you ever done so?
Yes, so we have written to the Prime Minister from January of 2020, outlining to him significant concerns that we have and which I would like to speak with him about. He has not responded to date.
Well, I will be reaching out to the offices of the Prime Minister and also to the PMP. And hopefully, if they're willing to join you here, then hopefully they'll come forward, in which we doubt likely. It's not likely, but
yes. Yeah. But let's ask them. I mean, the people, the people of Jamaica are here. Yeah, the
I will
people of
have my
Jamaica are
team
here.
definitely reach out to to both party leaders, and let's see where it goes from there. But definitely, like I said, with Senator Crawford, if it's one that you'll consider, we would like to do that because the people want to hear a conversation between you and Senator Crawford. All right, so we will discuss that off air and probably schedule a date for it. All right. Once again, thank you both for joining me in this conversation. It has been an enlightening one, and I'm quite sure everybody here enjoyed the conversation this evening. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Take care, Jamaica.
All right, Unstoppable family, here we go. We are at the end. All right. And trust me, it was a great conversation with both gentlemen right here this evening. Right. I want to thank everybody who tuned in with us. I want to thank everybody who shared out the program this evening. Thank you so much because you did good. Simply by sharing out the program, you shared it to someone who may have not known about the U.I.C and what they intend to do for Jamaica. All right. So thank you so much for that. And if you are new to this platform and you have not subscribed as yet, please consider subscribing. And if you're on Facebook and you have not clicked the follow button as yet, please consider following our platform. All right. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in the next broadcast. Blessings.